Check one,
Are we good?
two.
Mike 6.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, helping the mic check. All right, excellent. Thank you. Good evening. We're going to call our April 7th, Monday, April 7th meeting to order. I'm Michelle Pryor, joined by Vice Chair Anthea Brady and members Bill McGonigal, Paris Scoiani, Mike Betancourt, and our Town Manager, Beth Rudolph. Thanks for your patience, folks. We had a few things to go over before our meeting. We're going to follow the agenda this evening, starting with the Town Manager's report. Then when we get to public comment, I'll have a few words to say. One item of note on our business agenda, we were expecting a presentation regarding McDonald Field batting cages. We learned over the weekend that the proponents aren't available tonight. So that's one item that we will not discuss. So if you somehow are here for that topic, feel free to leave, and sorry for waiting. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this over to, we don't have any donations tonight, so turn it right over to Beth for the report.
Thank you. So first up, I have a couple appointments. In accordance with Section 4-2B of the Town Charter and Chapter 5 of the Town of Winchester Code of Bylaws, I've made the following reappointments for a term to expire March 31st of 2026. Mary Ellen Marshall to the position of Town Clerk, Ann Gill to the position of Town Treasurer Collector, and Matt Schuman to the position of Town Engineer. I've also, in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 8D, I've made the reappointment of Janet Boswell to the Historical Commission for a term to expire March 31st of 2028. And then just a couple updates on other non-agenda items. First up, just a reminder that springtime meeting will start on April 28th. That's a Monday. There are 2 hearings being held ahead of that. The Finance Committee will have a hearing on their budget on Wednesday, April 23rd at 7:30 p.m. And the manager's hearing on all other articles not already part of a hearing will be held on Thursday, April 24th at 6:30 p.m. and that will be via Zoom. A couple construction updates on projects that are not town projects. The MBTA will be working under Quill Rotary in the coming weeks to repair and replace the brick sidewalk on the southern end of the Rotary. Also, the MWRA is finishing up construction on the Section 89 North Intermediate High Pipeline Replacement Project. This is being added for water distribution and redundancy in Winchester, Woburn, Stoneham, and Wakefield. That is the work that you see that's been happening on Forest Street. So they are in the process of bringing that water main online, and hopefully they'll be doing repaving and restoration activity later this summer. Also, I'm very pleased to report that the town's housing production plan update has been approved by EOHLC. Our plan will be good for a term of 5 years and will expire on March 30th of 2030. The plan provides an overview of our current housing conditions and outlines an approach to increase the supply of affordable housing in town. So thanks to everyone on the working group who participated in that, and the Select Board and Planning Board for their efforts. Finally, just a couple of updates on town projects. So we have quite a few projects either happening or very nearly about to start construction or being out to bid. Just a few highlights. The construction on the Winchester High School gym floor project has started. That work is moving forward as expected and should be complete late this fall, likely in November. Lynch School traffic calming work is that contract was awarded last summer, and due to the long lead time for some curbing work, that construction is just about to start, so you might see the contractor out there mobilizing in the next week or so. Shore Road Culvert, we are currently finalizing those plans and hope to be bidding that project later this month for a summer 2025 construction start. And then the bids were just opened last week for the repairs on the Winchester High School concrete floors. Those bids did come in a little bit higher than expected, and I think it's likely due to the sort of market volatility that we're seeing, and I expect that we'll see similar trends as we open our bids over the coming construction season, and we will be going back to town meeting to get some additional funding for that project. And I think that's all I have for now. Thank you. Thank
you, Beth. Okay, so now if anyone is here for public comment on any item that is not on the agenda. So if you're here for the Morocco School Statement of Interest, we'll talk about that later. If you're here for cable advisory, the transfer station, or trees, we will take public comment as we get to each of those items. So if anyone in the audience is here for public comment on anything not on the agenda, please raise your hand or approach the table. Okay, come on up.
Michelle, we have, there's 4 people here. I know there's a couple of us are going to speak, but do you want to
have us all at once, or leave her one at a time?
I'd like as many of you to come up and give your, yes, please. If you could state your name and your address and comment.
Hi, good evening. I'm Will Deaconess. I live at 24 Chesterford Road at the corner of Pond Street with my wife and 2 young boys. Prepared a couple of handouts here for all of you this evening. We're here tonight to ask the Select Board to revisit the final traffic calming design at Pond and Chesterford, specifically the northbound right turn from Pond onto Chesterford, which has become increasingly dangerous over time. I'm here with my neighbors Tom Hopcroft, well known to many of you, whose family regularly crosses this intersection, Frank and Lynette Seitman, who live directly across from the intersection. Dylan and Jean Zhao couldn't be here tonight, but support the document I've handed out. They live on the other side of the intersection, and their son Andrew crosses daily to get to the school bus stop on the corner. The petition includes lots of traffic study data from the Lynch School Traffic Improvement Site. I won't quote it. Bottom line is that the cars are traveling really fast and at speeds where risk of serious injury or death is high. Same town documents show over 20 crashes on this stretch of Pond Street in recent years, including several at this particular intersection. The turn in question, because of its wide turn and poor visibility, poses a risk to people walking northbound on Pond, where traffic is coming from behind them as they cross. Children that might be walking up Chesterford from Inverness, there's no sidewalk and it's a blind curve. And the families that live at this corner, including both the abutters and any children walking to Lynch from the south direction or to the bus stop on that corner. Earlier designs included a curb bump out and extended sidewalk to slow traffic and improve visibility. After fire department input, those were slightly reduced, but they were preserved in a version that was presented to the neighborhood in February of 2024, and that we felt mitigated some of the concerns. Unfortunately, during final review, the bump out was removed, largely due to cost concerns. Totally understand the need to balance safety and budget, but believe that this change not only removes critical safety elements, but it may increase the danger by channeling traffic even closer to the blind corner. Matt Sherman, who was the town engineer we spoke with and was very responsive, mentioned that a small project contingency exists, and if it's not needed elsewhere, the work could potentially be added back in. However, we don't really want to just rely on that possibility alone, so are here to respectfully ask the board to reconsider the removal of these features and support restoring them and finding funds to either make modest adjustments elsewhere in the scope of the project or from a different source. So as residents who navigate this corner every day, we're asking for your help to make it safer, not just for our families, but for the whole neighborhood. Very appreciative of your time and efforts and continued commitment to traffic safety.
Thank you. Okay.
I'll set some of these around as well. Okay.
I'm keeping a stopwatch, Tom, so just so you know.
Yeah, we're good. 3 minutes, right?
Yep.
All right, so I actually know William because our fifth graders at Parkhurst are in class together, and so they run around these corners a bunch as well. What I just passed around, I just wanted to add a little more sort of color to this. The first picture here is the view as you come down Pond Street, and I'll say, I walk through this intersection 4 times a day because I take my dog down there, and then I drive through it once a day as I take my high schooler down to high school, sometimes twice a day. And even driving, when you slow down to take this corner at a respectable speed, the cars fly up behind you and they're like honking at you and things if you try to turn at a decent speed. But the point here with that picture is just to say that the visibility is really hard. You can't see what's around the corner, and what's around the corner is an area that has a wall there. So this first page is just showing that you can't see when you come around, and so the cars can come around the corner, and then you don't have time to react by the time you get there. The second slide, it shows my best attempt at recreating the version, not the original version that the fire department had a problem with, but the next version where the bump out got pulled back a little bit to accommodate the fire trucks getting through there. And by the way, I was a volunteer firefighter in my youth, and so I do appreciate the safety of having the trucks get through. But particularly as cars take this turn, you know, it'll force them to slow down a little bit, and then they can actually see whether there's someone on that side. And kids do walk on that side. People bike on that side from Horn Pond, et cetera. The next page, which has the schematic, shows, you know, we've removed everything from one side, this point where the blind curve is. And so the traffic calming on the other side, which we're very supportive of all the traffic calming, but it'll have the effect of pushing the cars even closer into that blind corner. And so it's actually a less safe condition than it was before the work, which we think is very valuable that's happening. So we want to you know, preserve that piece there. And it's just, as I say, a very minor bump out, just to cause the cars not to be able to swing right up against that wall and, you know, squish kids and people against the wall. My last slide in here, you know, just sort of, you know, reflects on, you know, the fact that the taxpayers did just do a $400,000 override. You know, I know it wasn't directly linked to Lynch, but it was, you know, sold in large part around safety around the Lynch school. And so, you know, we're hoping that there might be funding either from that or from other sources that you guys might know about. The town engineer mentioned the contingency fund, although we're a little bit nervous that if we rely on that and there isn't contingency, what's the backstop to that? And in this last picture, I'll say, you know, and not to pick on this particular person, but there's about 50 foot of granite curbing right there and on the other side of the street. You know, is there anywhere within the whole project that we can pick up 6 feet of granite? That, you know, if we can't, you know, raise the money to get that extra scope put in, could we just shift it from somewhere else where it's an aesthetic to a safety issue? And so that's my 3 minutes.
Thank you. 3:08. Well done. Thanks, Tom. Yes.
I don't have much to add other than the fact that I don't want to die. And this is an intersection which is challenging at best, and cars actually speed up as they go around this corner. The bump out, actually, all these things they said are quite true, and it seems like a minimal expense to move a few feet, so the cars, as they're making that right turn, right now they're cutting it, and as they cut it, they're also speeding up. And if they had to go like 2 or 3 feet further out in order to make more of a right turn, they'd actually have to slow down before getting to that intersection. That's the calming that we actually need, and it's not that expensive to get there. I mean, we're only talking about making cars make a right turn 3 or 4 feet further than where they're now cutting a corner. And where they cut the corner, they're cutting right into Will's driveway where his kids are playing. And it just doesn't make sense that we're going to risk lives when the solution is relatively simple, it seems to me. But then again, I'm not allocating funds, and it doesn't seem like there are big funds that are being allocated to solve this problem. And there are other mitigating things that could slow traffic around. When a car does have to move further out to make that right turn, they're going to have to slow down. When they slow down, that's going to stop traffic or slow down traffic from both directions. And that's really key.
Thank you.
Can I comment briefly or no? It's okay.
No.
Even if it's just a point of information?
Okay, Mike.
Thank you.
A point of information.
Just to Tom's point, the $400,000 general override that we passed with Lynch was actually to fund debt service on the traffic calming measures for Lynch. So I think that this would be an extension of it, and I don't think that everything is spent there. It was for other things as well, one of the school roofs, but you know, I think it would be appropriate, and I would hope that we'd be able to find funding for it. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else here for public comment not on the agenda? Okay. Next up, Morocco School MSBA Statement of Interest. I see Ms. Bolognese in the audience. Mr. Nixon, if you want to come up, just in case we have questions. So in our packet, we have the actual letter going to the MSBA. and there's a pretty lengthy motion that we need to have. And school committee, you are voting this week?
Thursday.
That's correct? So we're going to take the vote first, is the plan.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm just, Karen and Chris Nixon are here if we have any questions. The letter explains, why Morocco is, asking to be invited into the MSBA, age of the building, condition of the building, various challenges with size and learning and program. Does anybody have any questions for school committee, EFPBC at this time?
If people want to provide comment around this, it's after you're going to...
I will have them provide comment in a minute, but if anybody on our side has any questions, and then I'll invite anyone from the public to come up. Does anybody have any to start?
I would say happy to hear some questions because I know there's a lot of work that's gone on by MESPA and within the Morocco community looking at some of the conditions. There was a survey of the teachers. So I think it's widely known within Morocco what some of the conditions are. I think that's helpful for this board to have gotten a sense of some work that's been done ongoing in terms of the roof and heating and electrical. But there are some outstanding questions just on the condition. As we know, the SOI process is not going to be immediate. We're not going to have a new Morocco school in September, right? So, and I think I've sort of asked this before within a MESPA meeting, but what's in the interim, are there some steps that are being taken to address some of the needs at the school while we're putting this forward and while we're waiting for MSBA to come back? Response.
Well, I guess I would point to what had been done in the past few years with the Morocco Life Extension Plan. So that was approved by town meeting in 2020, and then in 2021, I think there was work to replace the sinks in the kindergarten spaces, in the kindergarten space, followed by some work in 2022 with parts of the roof, and then in 23 with work that was done on the boilers.
Electrical panels too.
And then in 2020, and the electrical panels. So with the idea being that we knew that the process with the Massachusetts School Building Authority takes a while. It's a long investment of time and energy and effort. So we knew that it would be a while to get to the actual replacement or rebuild, whatever is decided for Morocco. So those were some of the steps that were taken along the way.
Yeah. I think there are also some smaller projects that are looking at, sinks, leaking sinks, painting projects, carpeting. My child has spent 3 years at Morocco over the overhang, so where there's a lot of discussion of heating issues. So I think there's also some comments. You might hear some comments just about the general, conditions and look and feel of the school and what can be done to while we're waiting.
Yeah. Sorry, and I apologize. So we had appointments that I jumped right over. We're going to get back to those, I promise. I just jumped to number 2. Is there any public here for public comment on the Morocco School statement of interest? If you'd like, come on up. There's chairs on either side.
And I would say that we do understand that there are there are $15 million worth of capital projects.
I'd say renewal and replacement needs through our updated VFA database, and those are ranked, critical, not critical, urgent, and so forth. And that backlog of need is really what helped us get to the Morocco Life Extension Plan. We originally discovered about $6 to $7 million in construction costs that were necessary, but going into the override, which, as you know, Ms. Brady, that's a shared responsibility with the Select Board and to a lesser degree the Finance Committee, there was support for half that. So we were pleased to get the 3.6 we did for Morocco. A big part of that, of course, was the culvert, and I believe you guys are bringing forward an article dealing with some of the delays and cost overruns on that. That project, of course, is not the physical building, but it's so essential for a new Morocco as well. So quite a lot going on there. This is a very prescriptive process, if I can share. This is not about asking the MSBA for any particular design solution. No particular funding request. This is simply responding to a very prescriptive set of questions that we think we would be responsive to and that we have been in the past.
Right,
So,
and it's the same process we followed. It's the same set of questions you have to answer.
truncated in one respect, Ms. Pryor, because previously we have actually asked also for partnership to address existing overcrowding, and we do not have that today, in large part because of the new Lynch. So rather than applying for 3 criteria, as you see from your packet, we're applying on 2.
Okay, so I'm going to start from my right. If you have public comment. Nope, I'm going to start from my right. The first person on the right who wishes to speak, please speak. And then if you're going to switch seats, go ahead. But I'm going to start here. So if you're not ready, if Ms. Conti, if you want to give public comment, go ahead, or we'll just keep it going down.
Sure, I'm ready. We didn't know the order we were supposed to sit in. No idea. Never been to a select board meeting, but glad to be here. Feel so welcome. Good evening, members of the select board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Sarah Yablon Smith. I am here as a parent and concerned community member to advocate for maintenance and improvement for Morocco Elementary School. We are very glad to hear that the Morocco building will be rebuilt in the coming years and recognize all of the hard work and effort that has gone into advocating for that. But we're also here to let you know that the conditions currently are really quite atrocious. Some rooms are incredibly hot. Others are freezing cold. Some windows don't open. Others can't be closed. Many of the sinks don't work. The rugs are stained, dirty, and moldy. The roof is leaking onto the ceilings and walls, and the mice are as present as often as our children. This is not a healthy and safe environment for our children, nor is it worthy of our incredible Morocco staff. Previous repairs and renovations have been inconsistent and piecemeal. Some of the windows have been replaced, some of the sinks have been replaced, and yet in much of the building, the windows are not functional, resulting in rooms that are extremely hot or extremely cold. Some of the windows don't have screens, including the room my son was in last year. One day it lightly snowed in the room. Another day the children needed to be evacuated when bees from the beehive next to the window entered the room. These windows have been dysfunctional for at least 16 years. The rodent situation is so significant that at times staff have reported catching 3 to 5 mice per day. This is not a result of unsatisfactory custodial work, as our custodians are incredible and work diligently to keep the building as clean as possible. This is a result of gaping holes all around the exterior perimeter of the building's foundation. The rugs in the classroom have not been changed in at least 17 years, and the classrooms themselves haven't been painted in at least 23 years. Some staff don't feel comfortable having the children sit on the rugs because of the state they are in and the mice running across them. We cannot wait 5 more years for a new building. In these 5 years, something needs to be done. Simple repairs would make the school environment significantly better. Our children should be able to turn the faucets on and off. They should be able to sit comfortably in their classrooms, at their desks, or on a rug. Our children deserve better. Our teachers and staff deserve better. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Laura Conti for Highland View Ave. I have 3 children at Morocco as well, and I just wanted to echo what Sarah has said and just kind of raise the point that I'm really excited for the SOI and seeing a new Morocco, but best case scenario, the children who are in kindergarten now are going to spend their entire elementary school in these conditions, and I don't understand why even simple things like the rodent situation has gone on as long as it has. So I hope that we can all work together. And I recognize there's a balance. You can't make it look too good and ask for a new Morocco, but there are some significant concerns that I hope we can address together. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, everyone. I know most of you here. Thanks for having us. I've been a Morocco, my name is Joanna Shea O'Brien. I live at 41 Lincoln Street. I have been a Morocco parent for 9 years and have served 6 years on MESPA's Health and Safety Committee. That's our parent elementary school committee. And I've served 2 years as the MESPA co-president with Sandy. I've moved on, but Sandy's still president, one of our presidents. And I continue to be involved in the school facility improvement. For the record, I really want to stress here tonight, we are very grateful for the partnership that Morocco parents and MESCO board members have benefited from with the administration, Dr. Hackett, Andrew Marin, DPW, PISC, the entire school committee, past and present, especially Chris Nixon, who has met with us countless times over the last 10 years since I've been there. And also I wanted to shout out Town Manager Beth Rudolph, who also was a Morocco parent at one point, but has helped us with our health and safety committee when she was an engineer. And I'm just really grateful for her extraordinary diligence and responsiveness. So we've been following plans for Lynch and Morocco for years, and way back when, I wasn't here, but I've been told by Brenda Mandiel, one of the high school presidents, it was Morocco parents who led the advocacy for Vincent Owen to be rebuilt. At every PISC meeting, Brenda and all of our fellow elementary school parents say how important it is for us to get together and make sure that we fight for Morocco. And we also want to put on the record, we're exceptionally grateful for Morocco staff, Principal West, Assistant Principal Lisa Mandaglio, Lori McKinney, who keeps the place clean and keeps everybody in order, and Vinnie Toland, our custodian extraordinaire. Every single teacher and staff that make Morocco exceptional. And this extraordinary community, exceptional community, they really deserve the best that this town can provide. And it's really important for us to stress that we are grateful for all the work that this body has done, past and present, for Morocco. But we also know that we can't wait 6 years for some of the major improvements. So I have a letter that I'll put in the record, but I do want to say, I do want to end with saying, I make this joke at every internal meeting that we have, which is the people that are making financial decisions, and maybe it's not just the people here, but the finance committee, et cetera, should make those decisions while they're sitting in Morocco on a floor. The rugs have duct tape on them. They're clean because Vinny keeps them clean, but if we've got mice in them, that's not safe for little kids to be sitting on. If you have to have a snack in the break room, the staff room, you're going to go in, open the refrigerator, and find that the granola bars and dry goods are stored in the refrigerator because we can't have them on shelves because of potential mice. The electrical outlets in that room, I think that might have been fixed, but they've been wacky. It's not a nice staff room, and yet somehow our extraordinary teachers and staff always make it work. They never complain unless we push them and push them and push them and tell us what's wrong. So if you want to make a copy during your meeting when you're hanging out at Morocco, sitting on the rug like our kids do, you would have to go to the stage where we have our supply and copier spaces, which means we don't have a stage for kids to hang out on and perform on. So our Vinnie Toland, when it's time for a performance, moves the supply and the copiers, puts the risers up, pulls the ragged, jaggedy curtains back, and makes it work. We always make it work, but it is not in a good situation. And so I'm going to pass it over for
Do you
Sandy.
have written copy of comments that you can give to our
Yeah.
clerk, Patty?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Patty will grab that.
But I just want to stress how much we're grateful for everything you guys have done. And then the parents are now kind of starting to rise up the way they did with Lynch to say, let's move faster, let's do more, and invite more of the community that's not there to come see what's happening.
Thank you. Okay. If you have that, can you hand that off to Bill, actually, if you have a copy?
Yeah. Do I need to sign it?
No. I think we know. We can put your name on it, right? Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sandy George. I live at 8 Churchill Road. I'm the president of the Morocco Elementary School Parent Association right now, together with Beth Boyami. I'm the vice chair, so this is a letter from both of us. In light of the pending SOI discussion, I'd like to highlight some takeaways from a survey that we did of Morocco staff in the fall, and I will submit that survey, those results in this letter. This survey was created to look at improvements that could be implemented in the short term to make Morocco a better place for our staff and our students, looking at the long-term rebuild. At the same time, these firsthand experiences should lend some insight into the current state of the school and the importance of prioritizing a new Morocco. Before I share those, though, I do want to thank the Morocco building leadership, custodial team for tireless work, and also some deep appreciation to current and past school committee members who've advocated for Morocco over the years. Your efforts have not gone unnoticed. And again, this survey was completed after the $1 million building life extension, so these are very relevant to what's happening right now at the school. This staff survey revealed several recurring facility concerns across grade levels. As we mentioned previously, rugs and carpets were flagged as a continuing issue beyond just the elementary classrooms, indicating a need for broader attention. Sinks remain a concern for both lower and upper grade classrooms. Many staff expressed that refreshed paint in classrooms and staff bathrooms are important, noting that it's been years, in fact decades, since updates were made. Storage needs are widespread, with multiple mentions of a lack of shelving and bookshelves. Concerns about windows, as we mentioned, were also raised, issues with drafts, windows that can't be open and closed, broken shades and blinds that, again, affect learning. These are real, tangible barriers that affect student learning and staff morale. We urge the Select Board to keep these concerns in mind as you consider future capital investments and planning priorities. And I want to finish with a few quotes from our Morocco staff to put things in perspective. And I quote, "The spirit of Morocco is in the staff. We have to flea market everything. Our school is so very run down, and we make the best. I have duct tape on my walls to cover holes from equipment being removed from the walls. My bathroom water leaks water on the floor. Paint is a game changer. We've asked for this for the past 3 years." Another quote, "I would love a new sink. Without one, it takes a lot longer to get snacks in recess. It's also moldy under my sink. I've been electrocuted by the power strips attached to the wall in my classroom. Duct tape was used to fix the problem." And finally, "The AC system in the library does not work. It can get to 88 degrees and hotter by 11 a.m., and the temperature continues to rise, especially in September, October, May, and June. We can do better. Thank you for your continued support."
Thank you. I'm going to hand those.
Yeah, this is written on, but I'll email the
Oh,
copy.
perfect.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yep.
And Ms. Bolognese, we're going to make sure that you get copies of these comments as well.
Yes.
So we'll ask Patty to make some PDFs and send those to you, and we'll share with the superintendent as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Loring Torella. I'm a newer Morocco mom. I live on Florence Street, excuse me, number 30. And I also have two much younger children, as well as my first grader. And I have to say, first of all, the Morocco staff is incredible. I don't know how well you all know them, but they are doing a lot with a little. They care so deeply about the kids, and it is the greatest community because of them. The building that they are in is embarrassing for the town, which I'm sure you've all been in. I don't know if you've been in the children's bathrooms, but that's a place where you should take a peek at some point. Aging equipment, asbestos tiles under the carpets, everybody's mentioned the duct tape, the mice that have had the children are now talking about catching them and keeping them as class pets, which is concerning. The asbestos in the basement, the mold. There's just so much that we can just do better for our kids. And I would urge you, I thank you for doing the SOI and the MSBA process. I would urge you to also think about if that doesn't happen, what do we do? Because in 2021, the select board chair said that Morocco needed to be put on life support. And that was 4 years ago. I think we need to just really think about these kids. I've heard about gym classes taking place in an office where they're having to do jumping jacks in place because it's raining outside and it's lunchtime, so they can't go into the cafe/gym/auditorium. Our spaces are a fraction of MSBA standards. I think that we just need to really think about these kids and how we're affecting them in the long term, especially where the other buildings in town are so beautiful. So thank you so much for doing the SOI and the MSBA process, and I really look forward to seeing what comes out of it.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else here for Morocco? Okay. Thank you. So, Select Board, do we have any questions for School Committee or EFPBC, or do we want to just take, I know we have a motion we have to specifically make, but any other questions on the SOI? Otherwise, we can take the vote.
Just a quick question here. Karen, I know this is the first time we've heard of the recent updates from parents and families on the condition of Morocco. Is there any sort of plan with the schools to address some of these issues or anything, or Chris? I'm not aware. I know that there's money that's available with the revolving fund and other sources. I don't know if the school's addressed any of those.
So last fall, I believe the schools had discussed the rug replacement, or replacing the rugs. But then that has not proceeded any further. So apart from that, no, the conversation has not gone forward. It has been around getting the SOI submitted during this window.
Can I add to that, just respectful, so I also wear a capital hat, as you know, Mike.
thank you.
So that conversation around rugs and carpets was also part of the larger context around capital. And as you know, and others around this table, we accomplished so much in terms of capital allocation at town meeting for the schools. So millions of dollars. That covers a new roof at Ambrose, a new roof at McCall, and one hopes a roof here at the library, right? And right above us, look at the ceiling. You see the water stains? So these get worse, by the week. So over the past year and a half, there's been a lot of conversation about really urgent and critical capital needs. So my recollection is when carpets came up at Morocco, it fell to a lower list because we were focused on the school safety systems, security cameras, and roofs, because we actively have water coming in to buildings. I think some of the things I would offer that I heard about fall into some different buckets. I think Joanna's comments was really spot on about some of the program shortfalls of the building, having to go to the stage and the CAFA gymatorium to make a copy. That speaks to kind of the programming deficiency of the building, and you'll see language to that effect in the SOI. I've actually spent time on my hands and knees in that building trying to figure out where the mice come from. And it has been a consistent problem. I think there may be a conversation with DPW about that. If there are entry points to the building that mice are coming in, perhaps that's something that needs to be evaluated. There's a capital process. Your question about the revolving fund, I think, is appropriate given the local acceptance provision that town meeting passed. But that would really be a conversation for the superintendent and the school committee.
Yeah, it's just, I think that there are funds available either through our maintenance fund, through a revolving fund. We have very little discretionary funds on our end, but certainly I think the board would support it. We don't want you climbing around looking for mice. We can hire people to do that. It's, it's a process that we can go through, and I think that, we can find a way to fund. But, we're also voting the warrant tonight. There's, it would have been nice to have this question in advance to put on the warrant for Springtown meeting if we had a specific dollar amount. I don't know if we're talking about $10,000, $100,000, $1 million worth of repairs that are urgent, but it sounds like they're long overdue. So I just, appreciate the parents coming, but, we should be ahead of this a little bit more than we are.
Can I add something to that? In the 2017 Master Facilities Plan, there's a note about structural concerns and about, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but something moving an inch, which created cracks in the foundation, which was a concern for rodents and other pests. So that's 2017. So we're now at nearly 10 years past where mice are becoming an issue. We have the culvert work going on. Is that going to create more pests when it starts getting colder out? Is winter next year going to be a worse problem with rodents? And I did reach out to the Board of Health. They were unaware of the rodent problem at Morocco. Dug a little deeper, said that it sounded like it was supposed to be taken care of over February break, but nobody seemed to know kind of an answer to it. So I think you're dealing with structural concerns of the building, which is probably, I would guess, not a cheap fix.
Okay.
Go ahead. I would echo, a lot of what the parents said around you've done a great job putting in place the long-term structural solution, or at least the process to get there. And I commend school committee past and present for all of that work, as well as the superintendent. But also, though, agree with what Mike said, which is we don't want to see the building just sort of degrade for 5 years. And I think, speak for myself, but my guess is that you'll have a lot of support here for the SOI tonight. I'm certainly going to vote for it. But I would just echo Mike's request around whether it's the capital process, some funds, to your point, Mr. Nixon, that the superintendent controls, or having the superintendent speak to town staff around the authorization on the life extension debt exclusion that was done a few years ago, and whether there's flexibility in that language, because I believe there's some debt capacity still available there. So whatever the source is, I'll defer to town staff and the superintendent as well as others on that. But SOI, I think, is a really terrific accomplishment. I think, hopefully that does put the structural solution in place. I hope that we can address some of the smaller issues along the way, though.
Can I offer, Ms. Pryor, that Winchester, we've heard this consistently over the years from multiple senior staff at the MSBA. Winchester has a very strong reputation at that agency for being very planful, meaning 10-year facilities, master plans. They understand and respect that we don't go to the well for every project, that we self-fund major projects from time to time. And that is a reason we understand why they have actually invited us to participate in core replacement projects while another is still underway. That happened with the high school. We had not yet closed out VO, and we were, as some of you around the table will remember, we submitted statements of interest for Morocco and Lynch, both. We did not mail it in for Morocco. We worked just as hard on Morocco as we did Lynch. They invited us in on Lynch, but we actually submitted in 17, 18, and then 19. So my public service announcement tonight, to pick up on your comments, which are very appropriate, are to sort of set some expectations that we are months away from substantial completion on Lynch, and there are many other districts in the Commonwealth with real facility needs. You will recall from what we shared at town meeting a couple of years ago is that following the significant cost escalation post-COVID, the MSBA did raise our construction cost cap. That was helpful for us on Lynch. But to help pay for that, they actually put the green repair program on ice. So districts that were looking for new roofs and windows and boilers were told no for 2 years. That backlog has swelled, and the MSBA has now reopened that program. Further, if you haven't heard, Brockton High School, the estimate came in at the end of feasibility last month, and it's over $750 million. And the MSBA's reimbursement on that project hovers around 80%. So if Brockton can pull off a vote to accept that great deal, the MSBA has a significant encumbrance with their funds. So all of these things, I suggest that it would always be appropriate for us to have a conversation about what do we do if this process either takes too long or we don't get invited to the dance with the MSBA. What if we went it alone, which we've done in other school projects? But this is still a good process to go through so we can start having those conversations.
And I think the last thing I wanted to say for the parents and other parents, I'm sure you have other friends with similar concerns. There's school committee meets on Thursday, right? And EFPBC, which does all of our educational facilities, where that they're overseeing the Lynch project, they meet on Mondays.
We met tonight at 6 o'clock, so you missed public comment.
I think people truly with the with the boots on the ground and with the hammers in their hands are EFPBC and school committee, sort of with those two folks represented here. So I would encourage you to show up at those meetings as well. But thank you for coming tonight as well. And I know we have a specific vote on a statement of interest, and Anthea has something to say.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
I think, everyone is aware that we're not putting in the SOI today and expecting that we're first on the list. I'm prepared to vote in favor of this for the next 3 years of my term. Hopefully it will move forward before then, but, for however long it takes, I would just... The issues that the parents raised tonight are not new. I think folks on the school committee, the superintendent are aware of these issues, so they shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And so I would just ask, I don't know if we can phone a friend, but I see DPW in the audience, of some simple things like moving towards painting the bathrooms, painting some of the classrooms, doing those things that seem small but make a big impact, because roofs are important, but our kids aren't sitting on the roofs. Their kids are they're on the carpet. So doing some of those things that can have a big impact for the people who are in the building day-to-day can be, some of those sort of like paint, pretty easy to do. Happy to go paint a classroom. I've done that before, but things like that we can just start to tick off as we're in the process and waiting, and sort of a request to school committee or something to bring back to the superintendent or GFPBC or whatever direction that's going.
Okay, thank you. All right, are we ready for a motion?
You should have a draft in
You
your
can
packet.
wait until we take the motion, or you can leave the table now, whatever you'd like to do. This will go quickly.
It's half a page. So we're going to be talking for a lot more. Move that we, having convened in an open meeting on April 7th, 2025, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Select Board of Winchester, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 3rd, 2025, for the Morocco Elementary School located at 33 Bates Road, Winchester, Mass., which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Number 4, prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollment. And number 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Winchester to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
The longest motion ever. All right, we have a motion.
Second,
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We look forward to your affirmative vote on Thursday.
Yes.
And then the superintendent can sign. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. And sorry for our appointees who I jumped over here.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
We're going to start with the Council on Aging. Mr. Anderson and Ms. Chung, if you'd like to come on up. And then we will do the Cultural Council if Ria Karki is here. But we'll start. Hello. Thanks for your patience. I'm sorry I jumped right over you.
Interesting.
Yes, well, you could have read that either way, I suppose. So we have 2 applicants for the Council on Aging. We have some other reappointments to do this evening, but we have your application in our packet, and we have your statement of interest, and thank you for your interest in volunteering. We will ask you each maybe to just highlight. We'll go with you first, Ms. Chung, and why do you want to do it? Potentially, what do you bring from your background that's relevant? Go to Mr. Anderson with the same, and I don't know if we'll have questions for you, but we may. But if you'd just like to make your own sort of personal statement of interest and anything else you want to tell us.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So, name is Sujin Chung. My family and I have been a resident of Winchester for over 20 years. My boys have gone through the entire school system. This is home. We love the community. I'm currently a general counsel for a digital health software company based in Boston. And I've always wanted to empower people, and I want to give back to the community. And what better way to do it than to help our older residents and the people who care for them, of which I will be one eventually. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for your interest. Mr. Anderson.
My name is Sven Anderson. I live here in Winchester, and I've been here for 24 years. I'm a local real estate professional, and I want to come and provide a little bit more understanding and give a little bit more understanding about aging parents as my parents are aging. And I'm in a sandwich world where my kids are going to college and my parents are aging, so I want to give back and share a little bit more and basically learn a little bit more about this process. So I'm actively want to be committed to this organization and looking forward to it.
Great. I know the Jenks Center, I know that they have their own kind of nominating process, so I know that they've assessed your interest and probably availability for what that means, right? There's frequency of meetings and all that, so we're not going to question that. Does anybody on the board have any questions for either Ms. Chung or Mr. Anderson? No? Then we make our motions, but I'll express our thanks and gratitude for your willingness to volunteer and help out the Jenks and the council. It's a great organization, and you're replacing some pretty qualified volunteers, so I'm sure you'll jump right in and make an impact. So thank you for that.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, then we can go ahead and make the motions. You don't have to leave until we make your motions, but Go ahead, Anthea.
Move that we appoint Sven Anderson and Sujing Chung to the Council on Aging for the terms to expire March 31st, 2028.
Second.
Okay. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
patience.
Good night.
And is Ria Karki here, Cultural Council appointee? Ah. Okay.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ria Karki, and thank you, Select Board, for giving me this opportunity to even speak here today and tell about what I feel and why did I apply for this voluntary application. Thank you.
So is there anything else you wanted, that you're hoping to do with the Cultural Council, or anything else you want to say that's relevant to that role?
Sure. It's been a year. I am here in Winchester, and I have two boys. And one of my boy, he went to Winchester Community School, and he got a financial aid. So from there, it just connected me how a small financial help would bring such a joy in my kid's life. So I always wanted to be a part of community, help community, and I saw this application. I just wanted to apply it and help people, even with income circumstances or anything. I just wanted to help people and enrich our Winchester community for arts and culture.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Any questions for the applicant?
Not for the applicant, just a process question.
Sure,
So
go
it's a
ahead.
vacant position, so I appreciate the term ends in 3 months. Is there any way we can just extend that out for the full
So basically what it
term?
is there's a total of 3 positions that are open. This position itself, the term end date, hasn't been filled. And so in order to fill that position first, even though the end date is this summer, all she'll be is on the agenda saying being reappointed.
Great.
But this is, and then no one's going to sign up for one that is only 2 months longer, where I've got 2 more that have 2 more years on them.
So Ms. Karki is filling a position, taking over a term, filling out a term for someone else, and then she would be reappointed in the summer.
Correct.
Okay.
But won't have to return for an interview.
You don't need to go
I
back.
just wanted to make sure you
Yes.
didn't have her back here.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Yep.
Ahead of time.
Thanks for the question, then.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Okay.
Move that we appoint Ria Karki to the Cultural Council for the term to expire July 31st, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thanks
you,
for
Select
volunteering.
Board.
Thank you so
Have a good
much.
night.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Do you want to do all the rest of them?
Sure thing.
Yeah, let's do the rest of the appointments and reappointments. Thank you, Anthea.
Yes. Move that we reappoint Harut Gazarian to the Board of Appeals for the term to expire March 31st, 2028.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Move that we reappoint Vicky Krikorian to the Board of Registered Voters for the term to expire March 31st, 2028.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
This is, we don't have her resume or
Materials.
application. So, Paris, when I haven't worked with somebody and I don't have any background information in the packet on them, it's just my personal position to abstain from these votes.
Understood.
So because these were they'd only been part of one term and I hadn't heard from you, I didn't include the applications.
Okay.
Move that we reappoint, I drew over it, Corin Beamans to the Commissioners of Trust Funds for the term to expire March 31st, 2028.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
Move that we reappoint Nick Tracy to the Council on Aging for the term to expire March 31st, 2028.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye. Okay.
Yes.
And move that we reappoint Nick Tracy to the Senior Citizen Tax Committee for the term to expire March 31st, 2028.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Abstain.
Okay. Nick will be busy
I was just, yeah.
for serving on 2 committees. That's great. All right. Next up, Cable Advisory Board update. Ashley, come on up.
I appreciate the Select Board's time to give you an update on cable matters in Winchester. I think there's been sufficient turnover on the Select Board since I last used this line. The Cable Advisory Committee is generally the cicada of of town committees. We have an intense period of activity, approving licenses, and then we drop exhausted to the forest floor and burrow in for about 7 years, and then start over. That didn't happen this time. In 2020, Comcast requested a 10-year license, which we gave them, but Verizon only requested a 5-year license, and we were concerned that they were planning to cease cable service in Winchester at the end of 2025, the middle of 2025. In 2024, we saw that they were indeed renewing those 5-year licenses that they had been signing, and indeed they've expressed an interest in renewing the Winchester license. There was some interesting dynamics around the 2020 licenses. The big variable that we negotiate is a capital allocation for WinCam, which I think they use to keep their equipment state-of-the-art. And Comcast agreed to give us $200,000 over 10 years, and Verizon agreed to give us $225,000 over 5 years. Okay, fine. WinCam was duly appreciative. I think I probably made an error in filing both licenses with the state. I thought you were obliged to. I think it's voluntary. When Verizon read what they had paid and what Comcast had paid, shall we just say they were not amused. And we did have to negotiate a concession to them in which they deferred the second half of their final payment till only be paid if they were still offering cable service on December 31st, 2026. So, in that dynamic, going in to negotiate another 5-year license, frankly, if I had been on Verizon's side of the table, I would have said, well, guys, we gave you this 5 years back in 2020, we'll give you $1 this time, and we'll talk again in 2030. Our special counsel, Bill Solomon, did yeoman's work with Verizon, and they've agreed to give us $90,000 over this next 5 years, in addition to this second half of the final payment from the 2020 license. And I think WinCam is ecstatic. So we have submitted a draft license to Verizon's outside counsel today. I've called a meeting of the Cable Advisory Committee for this Thursday to discuss these terms and approve them. I'm trying to get the final license back to come before the Select Board for signature, hopefully at the end of April, if not then in May. The current license expires June 29th, 25, and I really don't want it to expire. That is the update I bring to the Select Board. I do want to thank Bill for his enthusiastic participation on the Cable Committee. We've been very lucky the last 10, 15 years of having very engaged representation from the Select Board on the committee, and I appreciate it.
Great.
Be happy to take any questions.
I don't know that I have questions, but thank you, Bill. He'd given us a heads up that this was coming, and if you need something signed between now and the middle of May, we'll be meeting like every Monday and a lot of Thursdays up until May 8th. So you can get that paperwork to us at any time, and we'll put our signatures on it.
Appreciate it.
And no more voluntary submissions to the state, I understand, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not planning to submit this one, though.
Right.
Thanks.
Is there any other action that we need to take tonight as a board, Beth or Bill? I know we wanted to hear the update. Is there any other action we need to take before that license that needs to get signed?
No, I think we just need the license so we can do the official approval, and I think hopefully we can do that without any unnecessary delay, because there's increasing uncertainty in DC. But our special counsel did get us a great package, especially compared to a lot of other towns. And I know David Gauthier for WinCam is very, very excited about it. So it's a bird in the hand.
Yes. Okay. Any questions? Anyone here for public comment on this topic? I suppose we've been getting them on out. Good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And we look forward to hearing more. Thank you for your patience tonight.
Thanks, Ashley.
Okay. So the next topic is Transfer Station Commercial Hauler Pilot Program. So the way I'm going to do this is come on up, DPW, and then we're going to hear from the DPW and the Transfer Station Coordinator. And then if there's any members of the public who wish to comment, I'll ask you to fill in, and then we'll open it up for deliberation from the select board. So we'll hear first from DPW, then public comment, then back to our deliberation. So if anyone's here, that's the timing, or at least the sequence. And welcome, Leanne and Bob and Nick, and to our newest member, Paris. If you want to introduce yourselves and your roles, in case he hasn't met you.
Good evening, Paul Lavoisier, Director of Public Works. To my left is Leanne McGann. She's our business manager at the DPW. And to my right is Nick Parley, who's the transfer station supervisor. And thank you for having us here tonight. We've been asked to look at the transfer station and look at at ways that we can increase revenue at the station and to hopefully keep our permit fees and fees down for all our residents as our expenses keep going up. So at our transfer station, we're permitted to take in about 25,000 tons. We right now are averaging about 8,500 tons, so we have a large capacity there. Our highest year was just over 10,000 tons. So even from our highest year, we still have about a 1,500 ton capacity to bring in trash. So we were looking at a pilot study to bring in a couple of outside commercial waste haulers. We're looking at 15 to 20 tons per week. That would be about a total of 2 to 5 ton capacity vehicles, which would be about 4 to 10 truckloads. That would increase our trailer truck leaving the station by just one haul a week. So in doing that, we came up with a revenue stream about $60,000 annually for that. We used $185 per ton average, and we got that through just an average of what we thought we'd take in for household solid waste, commercial waste, mixed, demolition debris, and that's what we use as a fee to come up with our revenue. In doing that, we took out indirect costs, any costs that it would put on our vehicles and whatnot. Just trying to think. We don't expect any increase in traffic, considering that we're still well below our highest years of bringing in trash. Let's see some of the other things. So we looked at some of the rates. Our rate is that we charge is a little bit on the higher side than some of the other market costs in the area. That's more or less because of convenience of coming to the transfer station.
Okay.
See, we don't anticipate increasing in the hours. The station would still operate the same amount of time as it does now. But that's kind of what our projection would be. So if you have any questions.
Just to add to what Bob said, I think the recommendation is to do this for a 3-month trial period starting
correct.
July 1st, just to kind of monitor how it goes, make sure kind of the traffic
Through the
and
end of
the
September, sure.
hauling on our side, and just the way in which that relationship with those outside haulers flows is something that we would be interested in continuing.
So one clarification, the 4 categories are what's listed here, the commercial hauler, household solid, commercial solid, mixed, and construction debris. And so the estimate is just a perspective on it'll be a blend of those?
Correct.
Do we anticipate charging a different permit price for these outside vendors or a different price per ton?
On our calculations, we were assuming the same numbers that we're charging now, but I mean, we absolutely could charge more, probably like maybe up to a $10 more ton, just for those particular the companies that we're inviting in. We're doing it whatever they're doing it at whatever we set as a scope.
And you could look at a different permit fee as well.
Correct.
Okay.
It would be prorated right now, obviously, because of the
Right,
pilot.
it's a 3-month.
3-month.
Understood.
But just the principle of charging them potentially a bit more. Where are they based, out of curiosity? Are they just in the immediately adjacent communities?
Woburn, Stoneham.
Do you actually have some people like kind of picked out already that you would invite for this program?
We've got our eye on a couple haulers. It's kind of an unusual facility that we do get calls weekly about access to the facility.
Oh, so there's a known demand. And that supports the idea that we could increase the permit and tonnage fee that they might be willing to pay here.
Yep.
And so they'd be paying more than our residents and in-town businesses.
Correct.
Okay. I have other questions too, but do we have anything
Yeah, I
else
thought
on,
we could
on pricing?
we can stick with pricing, but then I think we can do public comment, and then we can ask our DPW team to stay, but, because I have some questions too. But
Additional question.
if we have a question on pricing specifically, and otherwise, we'll turn over to public comment, so.
I would suggest, I don't know if it's a comment or a question, but you mentioned, Mr. Lavoisier, sort of $10. Maybe we consider a higher premium than that. I mean, $10 is less than, it's a single-digit percent, change versus, for example, for commercial mixed, it would be a 5% differential. Maybe we do like a 10% differential. Just, I would say we should, I do think we should put a premium on it. So that's
Yeah, it's an opportunity that's meeting a demand, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can come back and figure out the details. I have a question also on timing as well, but we can do that when we deliberate as a board. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Is anybody from the public here to comment? If you'd like to come on and approach?
You want us to sit back so they can?
Yeah,
sit
maybe
up
you
here?
can sit back. Thank you, but don't go far because we still have questions. And I'm going to start on the right, so if you don't want to talk first, you may not want to sit there. It's fine. So public comment, 3 minutes, and you'll each get 3 minutes. And if you could state your name, where you live, and go ahead and give comment.
My name's George Nowell Jr. I live at 67 Nelson Street here in town. I've tried to look at this from a few different directions. I'm a longtime resident. I'm a longtime resident living in Precinct 2, and I'm a longtime business owner here in town. I own and operate G.R. Nowell & Son Incorporated in Winchester Rubbish Removal and Recycling. So one facet of my business is that we provide service to over 1,000 residents and businesses here in town, trash and recycling removal. So we're frequent flyers at the transfer station. And from each of these perspectives, I seem to be against this pilot program, and I'm going to explain why. As a longtime resident, I know this comes up every, 15 or 20 years, and it kind of feels like a new idea each time. I don't know, I'm an aging business owner, but I seem to remember at least 2 to 3 times since I've been involved enough to care about it. It gets packaged a little differently each time, but generally it's when the town needs money, which I understand. Each previous time, the select board's come to the conclusion that even though that we're permitted to handle and transport more tonnage, that residents typically don't want any more trucks carrying trash in our streets for safety, aesthetics, traffic congestion, etc. I think we can all agree that there will be an impact. We can debate what that impact will be, but to kind of just pretend that there wouldn't be is a little silly to me, because I randomly picked 3 times. We get weight slips at the transfer station. I have years and years. If you saw my office, I have an embarrassing amount of paperwork. And I randomly picked out weight slips and added them up to get to a roughly 20-ton limit. And that'll all be how it's enforced. I mean, I don't think if we're at 17 and someone pops in that we're probably going to turn them away if it bumps it up to 23. But each time I came up with 15 to 17 weight slips. That means my trucks were in there 15 to 17 times to get to that 15 to 20. That was really mostly, I was counting it at 20. So to get to 20 tons, my trucks were in there 15 to 17 times. If these businesses were the same size as mine, that's probably what we'd be dealing with. So this will impact residents. It will. As a longtime resident who lives in Precinct 2, 3 blocks from the transfer station, I certainly don't want more trucks driving through the high school neighborhood. Nelson Street's right behind the high school. I also understand that since the transfer station is in my precinct, I'm 3 blocks from it, necessary traffic is expected. To pretend otherwise, you know, I signed up for that, I get it. I don't know if anyone signed up for unnecessary traffic. Trash from other towns coming in, to me, is unnecessary traffic. As a longtime business owner and trash hauler in town, I'm against it for a couple of reasons. Selfishly, I'm not crazy about inviting companies that will probably not be my competitors. If these companies eventually build a clientele in Winchester, those revenues generated won't be new revenues. They'll be just recycled revenues that are coming in from a different hauler. They'll be a net neutral to the town, and that will kind of work contrary to what we've been trying to accomplish. Under our current set of rules, the tax-paying residential customers that I represent are allowed to access the transfer station by proxy, by me or M&M Landscaping or any. This is not an enterprise account. Every taxpayer in town here has an equal say on that. I do not think that tax-paying residents from other communities should be allowed these same by proxy privileges. I just don't, and especially if it was at the same disposal rate. So thank you guys for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I was going to say you've gone a little over 4 minutes, but thank you. No, that's fine. I appreciate that.
Some of my minutes, 'cause I'm pretty quick.
Go right ahead.
My name's Dawn Johnson. I live at 50 Holland Street, 1 street over from George, and my husband Gary and I own M&M Landscaping and Rubbish Removal. Like George, I live in Precinct 2. I'm 3 blocks from the transfer station, and I'm echoing basically everything he wrote. My main concern is last time we piloted something like this and we let outside vendors come in, they solicited our business. We're a small business in town where we're taxpayers. Winchester Hospital and all their offsites are one of my big customers. We keep all of the money in the community. So to bring in other towns to put our businesses at jeopardy for $60,000, and with all due respect, in the big scheme of things, we're not talking millions, that's jeopardizing our livelihood. It's enough that, we have the traffic we do, because I don't know if any of you have ever been to the transfer station on a Saturday morning or an evening. It's insane. And due to the hours of what they are, time is money for George and myself. So we wait for the scale. We have to get weighed in. We have to dispose. We have to recycle. We get weighed out. So if we're inviting other towns to come in and have all of this done by 3 p.m., it's not going to happen. It's realistically not going to happen. Time is money for us. We're on a schedule. We try to serve our customers white glove service best we can. And my fear is, I would lose customers to people that solicited, and they have in the past, because myself and my parents, who both live in town, received a solicited postcard from a company in Lowell. So we're not looking for other people to come in and take, what we get up and work for every day for $60,000. My question is, can we find it someplace else? Can we find it in another area? I don't know. Can you pilot in a different way can we do it within our town, within our residents, within our own community, without bringing other people in? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Susan Carney. I've lived in town for 40 years, and our neighborhood is actually, that heads into our neighborhood is Cedar Street. So we're right off of Swanton Street and kitty corner to the transfer station. And I'm also Susan Carney, a town meeting member, Precinct 2. My concern is we also already have a lot of traffic on that road. It is like a raceway trying to get in and out of our street, especially on the weekends, mornings, afternoons. It's a safety issue. We have children walking to school. We have a bus stop at the corner of Swanton Street and Cedar Street. And there may be other bus stops along Swanton Street that I'm not aware of, but I do know there's the one at the end of our street. I just can't, the noise and it's, unless you can come up with additional safety measures that would make it safe for, it's just not about our neighborhood. There's a lot of other neighborhoods that feed into Swanton Street. I mean, they have another way out. Our only way out is actually onto Swanton Street because we have 4 short streets. And then another concern someone mentioned, some of these haulers, would they be bringing in from out of towns, would they be bringing in hazardous materials? There is a Morocco playground right on the other side. So that's something to think about. What will these people be bringing in? Right. So I don't really have much to say there. I am concerned, safety, additional traffic, all of it. And the noise, that how big would these trucks be? I mean, and we already have a moving company across the street that does have a few trucks there that move in and out in the early AM. Actually all day they're moving in and out of the parking lot there. Gentle Giant? Gentle Giant. So we do already have a lot of chaos going on. And one thing I did want to mention, July and August, if you start the pilot program in July and August, you're not going to really see the impact of the traffic because everybody moves out of Winchester in the summer. So you might, if it's 3 months, you would see some of September. But that's kind of the quiet time, and maybe that's a good time, but you're not going to see the full effect of what could happen, what the traffic would look like. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I hope we can all work together and figure out something that works for everyone and keeps our community safe at the same time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Richard Rohan. I live at 152 Swanton Street, have for about 25 years, and full disclosure, that's about a half a block from McKay Avenue entrance to the transfer station. So I'm not a completely unbiased observer of what happens, what goes on on Swanton Street. I'm just going to echo pretty much what the previous speakers had to say. Just a few things, though. George did not mention that back in 2022, I served on the transfer station working group, along with George and some other town meeting members. And I would this is one of the considerations, this increase in outside haulers. It's one of the things that we considered in during that working group. And when we issued our findings in November of 2022, that was as George has pointed out in his letter, which I hope all the members of the select board.
We do. We have that letter.
Yeah,
We also have the recommendations of the transfer station working group. That's been shared with everybody as well. And any resident that emailed us, everyone has seen a copy of that as well. But please feel free to highlight from that, but just know that
Susan's already mentioned the increase in truck traffic already with Gentle Giant taking over the old Party Center building. There's now a new business in the back of McKay Street that has a fleet of trucks that they go in and out there from the back end. The Melanson project at the corner of Washington and Swanton Street, I presume is going to add some traffic. So I think that, so I would ask that if this is something that you want to go ahead with, and as a Finance Committee member, I fully realize the need to increase revenue in the town. I'm not sure that $60,000 is going to solve much of our fiscal problems. There are difficulties. But if we could make part of this pilot study a traffic survey of that end of Swanton Street. I mean, I don't know that a corridor study has ever been done on Swanton Street. So let's find out what the baseline traffic is. When are the times when traffic along Swanton Street is light? When is it heaviest? And then direct those outside haulers if you decide to go ahead with this pilot study. direct them to times when the transfer station is not particularly burdened with other people who are using it. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. DPW can come back up. I had some of the same questions, I think, as our public, as our neighbors did, so, but I'll do my questions last, and maybe, I know Bill had some, so I'll start with Bill.
I have a number here, so.
I hope you can fly through them, and I'm going to cross them off if they're mine, too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to share, a lot of these will be shared with other people. Let's start with, this actually might be the hardest one. As we go forward with this pilot program, I think one of the most difficult things that some of these residents and local business people are conveying is the fear that these outside haulers might use this as an opportunity to get a toehold and take business away from them. And there are residents, there are businesses. We're always talking about how we need to be more accommodating and protective of our businesses here in town for all sorts of reasons. Is there any way that we could build some sort of non-solicit into the licensing for these out-of-town agencies that says you can have this permit, but if we find evidence of you soliciting, Winchester residents and taking away the business of our local businesses, that could be grounds for an immediate termination of a permit.
But going to defer that more to the town
Yeah,
manager.
that's not, something for us to, and who's going to enforce it? Like, how do you enforce that? So how do we know if that happens?
Well, if someone has a flyer on their door, and they walk into town hall with a flyer on their door, there's evidence of
We
solicitation.
may need legal advice on that. We are
Yeah.
accepting DEP grants at the transfer station.
Yep.
Observe that. And these are Massachusetts-based companies in
Yeah.
Stoneham and Woburn.
And that's why this is probably the hardest question to answer.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure
it's,
we're the ones to answer that.
No, you might not be, but I have to put it out there.
Yeah,
And now, if Beth can maybe follow up with town council or whoever needs to be for that one. I'll go to an easy one now. There was also the question of outside haulers bringing in hazardous materials. Is it safe to say that we're not going to let these people bring in anything that's not already permitted and is safe to bring in there?
Right.
Okay.
Similar to any other hauler that comes in as we speak now.
Yeah, we have to be mindful of our equipment and our staff safety down there as well.
Okay. And with that, the pilot program at least, would this expand the amount of tonnage coming in up to or close to the 25,000 ton limit, or?
No, not even close. We're talking 900 tons, more or less.
Okay. So really for the pilot, this is a baby step to just kind of
15
see
to
how
20 tons a week.
So 900 is the annualized number.
Right.
That'd be a quarter of that for the pilot.
Correct.
Okay. There was also the question of hours. Is there any way that we could limit when the out-of-town haulers would be coming in? I mean, obviously Saturday is probably the busiest day for residents themselves, and I don't think we want to be clogging up the transfer station at this time. Could we limit when out-of-town haulers have access to, let's say, after-school drop-off hours, before-school pickup hours, so that like 9 to 2 window, and only on the weekdays? I assume that's when there's the least amount of traffic going in and out of there, and...
Well, now that we have the license plate reader, we can tell you exactly when the high and the low times are, so.
Okay.
But Tuesdays and Thursdays, you open late currently, right? So it would have to.
We'd have to adjust the time.
Right.
With the general comment of designing the schedule. So.
Yeah, we can.
If that's something we can do, so again, residents have priority access during those busy times, particularly on Saturday, and we're not getting caught up in school traffic. And again, if we can get a non-solicit to protect our businesses, these are all steps in the right direction.
Right.
The traffic one, and this is, I want to make sure I understand what your expectations here are. In the memo, it said 4 to 10 truck visits, I think, per week. That means 4 to 10 times per week, there's another truck that's coming down Swanton Street going into the transfer station. It's not
Correct.
10 trucks X number of times per week. It could be 100, it could be 2, it could be something else. It's just 10 more trips.
10 more trips.
Okay.
Correct.
Just for my own bit of investigation. I counted how many trucks I saw this morning walking my kids to school. So from the Mystic School to the Lincoln School and walking home, I saw 33 trucks in the span of 20 minutes. And that is everything from a pickup truck to, a large, hauling a, backloader or a cement truck sort of thing. So 10 trucks over the course of a week doesn't sound like a lot to me, but I completely respect the residents who live around there who already think there's too much traffic, and even one extra truck is too much. Which gets me to the next thing, and this is maybe more for the board, and just an idea that if this does go forward, I would suggest maybe we consider kind of prioritizing whatever money we get off of this to be earmarked and put towards traffic issues in this general corridor first and foremost. Because with the Washington Swanton project getting off the ground, it's probably going to be necessary. This would be a repeated source of funds if the pilot program was successful and we move forward. And I think that would demonstrate to these residents that we're not just taking advantage of the fact that they're by the transfer station. That's an area that does need improvement. It does need attention, and they should be first in line to get some of that support while achieving everything else that I'm hoping that I think I've touched on here. I think that's the long and short of it from my list, and I hope I covered a lot of your questions.
You knocked a few of mine off, so that's good. Anthea, yeah.
Yeah, just a couple things which maybe add to what Bill was asking. In terms of, so I agree in terms of, occasionally I'm in the area, but around 8:15, 8:30, and I would think on Wednesday and Friday, if that could be a later time period, knowing that, folks in town who are driving to the transfer station in the morning recognize that they're going through sort of where the high school students are crossing, but folks who are out of town may not be familiar with that, to have some limitations there. Some questions I have are really about the impact in terms of like what size are these trucks? Would they be pickup trucks? Would they be sort of the smaller garbage trucks, dump trucks? What kind of might that look like to say it's potentially 4 to 10 truckloads a week? And what types of materials would they be bringing? And then this is maybe for my personal edification because I don't know. So if a commercial hauler is coming in, or they have a specific area down towards the bottom, right, where they're dumping, they're not like coming in and throwing bags of trash into the...
They'll be going up top, around the backside of where the conveyor is.
Yeah.
And into the building. That's where they dump into the compactors. And then on the right side of the recycling, there's a spot for commercial trucks to dump into. So they wouldn't be in the same spots the residents are dumping.
Okay. And then my only other sort of comment slash question. I had to do that really long motion at the top of this.
Yes.
Because I think talk about the traffic may come up, which I thoughts on. But the last thing would be thinking, there's a concern from our local businesses that this is going to slow them down in terms of their ability to get things done. And that's obviously sort of peripherally can hurt their business. They're not able to do as much. Is there a way to just gauge, doing a pilot engaging, is this, are we slower? Are the lines longer? Do we have people who are coming in and we're waiting because we have a line of 3, 4, 5 trucks? Or, is this, maybe we get a Saturday and there's a couple people, but it's not necessarily so. And then I hate that I did this. While I was talking, one final thing that I will ask is just then how are we in September saying this pilot was successful, this pilot was unsuccessful, it's something that we want to move forward with, or we've determined that there's not interest or the impacts are too much? Kind of what are those criteria then after, if we move forward with a pilot, what are the criteria to determine if it's worth continuing, worth expanding, worth shutting down? So.
Well, just for the pilot, to determine whether it works or not is to see if we can get people to come in. So once the people come in, and then to see what kind of issues come up during that 3-month period, whether we have issues with backing up, the time they come in, the number of trucks, something to that effect. To see if we bring in enough money to make it even worth our while. So those are some of the criteria that we'd be looking at.
And I think it's equally, it's a pilot for them as well, right? So they may say after 3 months, like, this wasn't worth it for us.
Right, exactly.
Especially, based on the cost we might be increasing, but that's.
I suppose we could work with Beth and you to come up with some data collection points, right? Because I had a similar question. But you're right. Does it work for the potential? The demand is there. You're getting calls. If you open it up, is the demand's still there? And I think we certainly have some questions around, using that license plate reader data. What are the windows, like the busiest windows, the not as busy windows? We know some of that now. It might change as we see some uptake.
Could you answer Anthea's question, though, about truck size, or expected truck size?
Yeah, so we were targeting, it was 2 to 5 ton trucks, so like an F550, a rack-style truck, a small packer. It's kind of the...
It has to fit in the building anyway, right? It has to fit in our infrastructure. So what we'd see on the street or a smaller truck, it sounds like.
Yeah, not a giant garbage truck, not one of these gentle giant trucks.
Well, Gentle Giant does utilize the transfer station, but not the...
Not tractor trailer size things.
Not the material we're targeting. I also have my own personal axe to grind with the Gentle Giant trucks because they take so long to unload.
And they come in like 3 minutes to closing.
Yeah.
So that's not for today. The only question I had, or something to consider, I think more for the board, but this would impact you too, is to Ms. Carney's point. I think we should, if we choose to do this trial, we should run it for 4 months. We should run it through October. We're going to have a brand new Lynch school opening in September. We're going to have some of the neighborhood goes to Lynch. People are going to be back driving in that direction. They've been going to Parkhurst for a while. So I think there's a truth to the July and August light kind of traffic in town. Back to school, everybody kind of forgets how to get to school in September, and maybe by the 3rd week, we all figured out how to get there. I think extending it for 1 more month to just see, as people adjust to school drop-offs, if that changes anything, if it exacerbates it, if you have different hours. So that's, I think, for the board to consider, but I think if we move forward, running it beyond September 30 has some value, just given our habits as a town. And I think, I don't have any other question. I think I mostly hit them. But Mike, I'm going to go to Mike and then Paris, and we'll see.
Thanks, Michelle. I think most of my questions have been asked and answered at this point. I concur with the 4-month strategy. I think that makes sense. And just to comment to Mr. Nowell's point, we have been talking about this pilot program for years, and we really were waiting for that license plate reader to get funded and online to do exactly what you're suggesting, and what Bill mentioned as well, is to look at those times that were of lower use for residents, and then get the revenue in that perspective from with that strategy. So, and I think we were also holding off a little while because there was so much construction in that part of town for years, and we didn't want to add the potential of more truck traffic going through and burden the neighborhoods more. So I think it's the right time to try this out and to see if we can offset some of our rising costs, and also with an eye to minimizing the impact on existing and local businesses. I had the same comment as Bill around the no solicitation requirements. I think that will be still worthwhile for outside haulers to come in to want to have access to the transfer station without looking to take away local business. So, thank you.
Couple of questions. Do we have, maybe this is a question also for Beth, do we have a sense of what the daily traffic is on Swanton Street presently? Or even roughly?
I can't recall the last time we did any sort of traffic counts
We
out
can
on
do
Swan
traffic
Street.
counts that we have
Yeah.
the ability to
just
do.
give you a number. The river
transfer station.
Yeah, what's the transfer station?
On a slower day, we're 600. That's kind of a Wednesday or a Friday. On a Saturday, we're around 2,000, with the busiest time being leaf season because people make multiple runs. High 2,000s.
So is something north of 5,000 a fair number?
What do you?
On a weekly basis.
Oh.
600 times 5 plus 2,000.
600 times 4.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So
Around 5.
4,500. Okay. So and so this would add to your memo, 10, maybe to Mr. Nall's point, as high as 20 trucks a week.
No, we said 4 to 10.
No, you guys have said 4 to 10. I think he had put it higher.
From a weight perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, all right. So I think that's just helpful to contextualize the number of additional vehicles. The hours point has been made repeatedly, which I agree with. I'm also wondering if we can give them. We obviously don't want these trucks driving through neighborhoods. I don't understand why they would. I mean, if they're coming from Stoneham or Woburn, they would presumably
truck route.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So come down Main over Swanton, come down Washington over on Swanton.
So our trucks have to observe a designated truck route for North Andover when we're dumping our waste off at Win Waste. That's enforced through their Board of Health. I assume we could do something similar.
Create a truck route specifically for this.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, just because they're, we want them on the larger arterial streets, not going through neighborhoods like near the
Yeah, we don't want them coming down like Forest on the cross, the way that became a problem.
We'll have to see their truck route.
Yeah, but
but you don't want them to cut through Irving and
Correct, yeah, or
Florence.
Clementis.
Nelson.
So, Nelson, yes. Question I got, potentially for Beth, Jay, or anyone. Bob, anyone. Is 4 months too short, or do we think we're going to get uptake for a commercial hauler to actually? I want to make sure we're not encumbering the pilot so much in terms of duration and all the other things we want that it ends up being commercially unviable and nobody actually wants to participate in it, because it's hard for a business potentially to plan for a 4 month increment as opposed to say a 6 month increment. So I ask it as a question, and it's maybe something you need to talk about with some of the potential
It
clients,
is.
Nick,
It has come up in discussions, and I think we have to be very upfront with anyone that we go into discussion with that this isn't carte blanche. This isn't forever.
Yeah, what I'm getting at is I don't want us to launch a pilot that has so many restrictions. Appreciate them. We're the ones putting a bunch of additional restrictions, and I'm saying raise the price, and then you end up getting no takers. That's actually ends up not being a pilot. So I would just ask you guys to keep an eye on that and sort of come back to
and
us.
give us an update, I think. If we choose to move forward, give us an update on how those conversations are going.
Right.
Can I jump in on that? What are the haulers currently who we might ask to participate in this program? Where are they going now? What are the hours that they're used to now? Just something to think about in terms of.
You're saying competitive. See how competitive our offer rates are.
Yeah. So kind of like if we were to offer 9 to 2 on Mondays and Wednesdays, would they say, or Wednesdays and Fridays, would they say, yeah, it's worth it for me because otherwise I have to drive, 30 miles,
Andover.
or would they say,
right,
well, I always do my run at 4 in the afternoon, and so
It's basically getting a little more commercial information from them, because we also want to make sure this actually gets uptake. I agree with that, yes. And then just one final point. I agree with the goals that Mike and Bill have noted. We obviously want to protect our local businesses, whether it's council or just I just want to make sure we don't jeopardize our ability to win DEP grants or any state grants for that matter. You were presenting one, I think, at the last meeting, right? Or it was in our packet. Right. And so, if there are immediately adjacent communities that our legislative delegation hail from, and we're excluding them or putting, I just want to be very thoughtful about that, because we are part of a Commonwealth and they do fund our transfer station directly as well.
Right.
Okay, so what I would like the board to consider is if we want to take a position for a 4-month pilot, I'd like that to potentially be the motion. What I'd rather not do tonight, because it's 9:30 and we're only halfway through the agenda, is decide that the permit should be $300, prorated should be $350. Like, let's not do $15, $20 math. If we could tonight, let's potentially, if we agree to move forward with a pilot, then maybe we have another meeting. We have many meetings between now and town meeting. We can talk with Beth to say, I think we want to charge more for an outside service, right? Let's not play $5 and $10 math right now.
Principles,
Right?
not-
And if we want to come back, or there's a proposal, we can review that
kind of do
proposal.
like a one-page, like
But,
what the
you know,
application
I
would
could
look
say
like.
325, 350, like, that doesn't seem like a great use of our time. Either we are in agreement, we want to try, and we want to work on a different fee structure, or we're not in agreement that we want to try. And I think I'd at least like to get us to that tonight, and then leave some of the details for later.
I think we have enough information. We can go back, develop a scope of what we'd give out to these vendors, and run it by the board here before.
Okay. So if that's okay with everybody to not, is that okay? To not do the math right now?
I mean, it doesn't even sound like it needs a motion right now. It sounds like they've.
Well, I think a motion to move forward to even investigate more and come back
Yeah.
versus not move forward and get that data.
Yeah, I'll investigate for sure.
Well, I think I'd like a motion to say we're going to launch the pilot unless we find that it's unfeasible at a 4-month duration. Because I think the longer we don't make a decision, the less time we have to tell businesses that we're open for business. So that's my concern.
I'm happy to make the motion.
So do we want to, so make a motion for a 4-month pilot for outside commercial haulers at the transfer station, contingent on a shared scope from DPW? Or contingent on agreement of a shared scope from DPW?
That sounds like a great motion.
Second.
Thank you for that shared scope piece. I wasn't even that far along. Any additional discussion on that? We have a second? Okay. All those in favor of that motion, thank you for putting it together.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
Great,
And
thank you very
please
much.
get back to us with some more details. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Street trees. Mr. Miller, I know you're back there somewhere. I saw you. Okay. Good evening. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I realized it had been the fall when we saw your memo. I was like, wow, it's been a while. So,
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
So David Miller, with my colleague from the committee, Austin Whitman, we're here representing the Permanent Street Tree Committee, who is responsive to the public shade tree bylaw. And just to get the whole thing set, the committee has the authority to make recommendations for regulations and definitions under the bylaw. And back in August, we had that conversation with a couple of regulation and definition that we proposed. And so we're now back to seek your approval on the reconsidered regulation we proposed at that time. Now, my understanding is you have the presentation on your computer. Is that
we do.
Actually true? I've been asked to go through this quickly, and I can certainly do that. But I want to point out a couple of things. Slide number 3, sort of a new consideration of how to graphically represent the importance of trees. Very commonly, you see a big tree with a word cloud around it. We thought we would reduce the size of the tree and emphasize the actual elements, and we were able to quite nicely break those into 3 groupings: economics, environment, and health. And you can take a look at that at your leisure, but I think we would all agree, hopefully we all agree, that the trees provide important elements to each one of those in terms of our community. In terms of economic benefits, this is always an interesting thing to look at. This is a USDA calculation algorithm they use to determine the value that trees provide specifically to Winchester, and that's $1.7 million per year on an annual basis, obviously, in terms of what they protect from gas, stormwater, et cetera. I can't pretend to explain the algorithm, but that is the number they come up with. Going to slide 5, it is interesting to revisit over the years some of the elements that have been pointed out as important considerations in the town's approach to trees. In 2019, the Select Board committed to reduce carbon pollution by 80% by 2050. Obviously, as we all know, trees reduce carbon pollution through sequestration. The 2020 Climate Action Plan and the Master Plan pointed to 2030 both identify the importance of trees in our community and call for the planting of more trees. This being the 5th anniversary of those plans, I point that out. In 2024, we were fortunate to receive, that is the tree committee, an ARPA grant, and we put that to good use in getting a tree canopy study. Then I'll show you some of the results of that in a minute, which point to, I think, some of the problematic aspects of trees in Winchester. Jump to one of our summary statements, which is that to date, there is no budget item in the town's budget that points specifically to the purchase of trees or the planting of trees or even the care and maintenance of trees. It is, as I understand it, the professional services a component of the DPW budget, but nothing which actually has the word trees associated with it. So if you take a look at slide number 7, and there's, of course, a much more robust presentation we could go through on the tree canopy data, but slide number 7 shows a graphic representation where it's sort of a standard representation of GIS data, hexagons, and this shows what our tree canopy looks like in 2023, where the light colors represent 0 tree canopy, and the darker colors represent 100% tree canopy. And you can see that there are sizable portions of Winchester which have essentially no tree canopy in them. I think we all recognize where those areas are visually. The next slide, number 8, tree canopy changes, and the canopy analysis we had done was a look at 2012, 2018, and 2023. So this is a summation, if you will, of what our canopy has done between 2012 and 2023, where on your slides, it'll be I believe it's the brown colors, which are 67%.
Yes, the brown, yes.
They represent as much as a 67% loss of trees over that period, and the green is 100% tree canopy. So sizable losses of tree canopy in certain areas. And then the slide number 9 is actually the engineering department was able to pull out the rights of way as a GIS layer and provide that to the folks who did a tree canopy analysis. And so you're looking at streets, and of course those are the public streets and the public shade trees, which are all part of our purview. And what this shows, where there's brown, between 2018 and 2023, that we lost as much as 8% of our tree canopy on those streets, even in this 5-year period. So a lot of trees are being lost. It's going in the wrong direction. We'd like to make the argument that there's something that needs to be done about that. And the existing tree bylaw, by its language, certainly suggests the importance of the town planting trees and preserving trees to address the benefits of trees, but also to address the loss of trees that happens naturally over time. So what we felt was that the actionable elements of those statements were limited in the bylaw, and so we have proposed 2 regulations for that. And the first regulation gets at the requirement to do an inventory on a regular basis, and the second one gets at the definition of what preservation and protection mean. And those are what was originally considered when we proposed this back in August, but we've modified them a little bit so that the inventory is something which happens every 3 years and can be achieved by several different methods. And with regard to the preserving and protecting, the definition which we've identified as no net loss, and that no net loss is further identified as no decrease in the number of public trees and the extent of tree canopy. That was there originally, but we've addressed the concern that if you do accept those definitions, that you're locked into some cadence of planting trees and associated expense, which might be problematic in certain years. So we've left it open-ended, but the requirement is there to, from a long-term basis, seek to address and create the situation where there's no net loss of trees over time. So that's kind of where we are. Ready to take questions about any of this, or?
I read it again, so thank you. Paris, go ahead.
So,
refresher.
I appreciate all the work, by the way, and I think we have obviously a broader issue with the canopy, a lot of which is private land, I would assume, in terms of the development, particularly on the west side of town. I'm sort of troubled, maybe the right word, by the second piece, though, which is the public street trees, and the fact that we have such severe loss. I guess it's the flats or the neighborhood sort of immediately to the west of Wildwood. It's a little bit north of the immediate flats, and what's going on there, because those are not. I mean, I assume these are publicly owned trees that are near the sidewalk.
Yes.
So why we're seeing such severe loss in a handful of these neighborhoods for the public side of the trees?
Well, I can't, of course, answer for every tree, but I can tell you that it's an older neighborhood, and trees get old, they die, they get knocked down by lightning, they tear up sidewalks, so there's a variety of reasons that trees may be removed. And these are, yes, more specifically, these are public trees that are typically in the space between the sidewalk and the street, and they're just simply not being replaced. So they're lost through the normal course of, a tree life, but when a tree is lost, it has to be replaced, and that's not what's happening.
Right. So I guess that's so I appreciate the bylaw, amendment, and I'll be supporting it. I do hope we can find a way to also set aside, funding, and I don't know if, DPW's here, appreciate that it's in a separate sort of part of their budget. You said professional services, but just given what we're seeing with the public set of trees, I am worried about certain neighborhoods that are losing just a lot of their street trees, and making sure, to your point, that we're replenishing those. From a financial standpoint, I would imagine you agree with that, that we're setting aside money for that.
And Paris, just a point of clarification, these are regulations, so the bylaw is the bylaw. This is actually where the rubber meets the road. So what we're being asked to consider tonight is the regulations.
Regulations to the bylaw.
Yes.
Yeah. Good distinction. Thank you.
Just in this context of there's public space, public lands, public trees, and there's obviously private land and private trees. This analysis at the GIS level gives us a pretty good sense of what's going on in the public streets, and this was the first time this has ever been done in the town. So it's an exciting moment to be able to actually observe long-term trends and start to open up our eyes to sort of where the direction is going. In the coming months, we're also looking at opportunities to do tree-by-tree census, which is the next step in gaining better resolution on the health of the trees and what happens to them. And then we've also opened up a conversation with DPW because they have the best lens into what's happening with the trees. So all this is to say this is sort of the beginning of the process to try to get at the question that you're raising, which is what's happening in these public streets. Why, are these trees actually in the purview of the town? But none of this would have happened without the grant that we got to do the research. So that's a long way of saying thanks for the support for that grant, because that made a lot of this conversation possible.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Wedgmere.
Made it completely
One
possible,
street is
actually.
scary.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
even though we all see trees disappearing around us, it was very hand-wavy until we actually had the ability to do the canopy analysis, and we could look at where and how much. So,
Okay. Any other questions?
Just more of a comment, but there's an easy question coming at the end of it.
Okay.
I was supportive of this in the fall. I'm going to be supportive of it tonight. I think what this is a good demonstration of, or could be a good demonstration of. Here's the easy question. We could use CPA funds to help with the loss of trees around town, correct?
No. No.
It's not eligible.
Not eligible? Okay, so that's green space. Either way, well, it still applies here. We don't always do a really good job of showing people where their money goes and how it impacts the town and everything else. And we don't always legislate or distribute funds, according to hard data.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easier and it makes more sense when we do.
Yeah.
And it holds us to be more accountable, and it allows us to have something we can really demonstrate to our residents as to where their money is going. And for me, the canopy analysis was a great way of getting that baseline data from which we can start building off of and showing our residents, where are we putting trees, why are we putting them there, what sort of impact is it having on their neighborhoods and everything else, and are they getting the most out of their money for these efforts. And starting an inventory, keeping it regular, doing it in a way that does not create a new financial burden that already builds off of established processes, it is smart. And this, to me, is the sort of data collection and data-driven management that I think we should just be doing more of across all of our town efforts. So it's great that it also goes to something as wonderful as sustainability and environmental concerns and just having more trees around town. So I really applaud your perseverance with this, David, and thank you for it.
Thank you. That was a very easy question.
All right. Anything?
I just want to say thank you. This is extremely helpful and not something that I really envisioned was at this point. So I share Paris's concern about where we are, and hopefully we can provide a pathway to funding or some sort of solution for replacement of the canopy. And I know we had a carbon offset policy a few years back, which endeavored to resolve some of these things to kind of offset the balance. And maybe it's time for us to kind of get back into that discussion. We do have a sustainability fee that we charge anybody that pulls a permit for development in town. And if there's a little bit extra funds there, I imagine there are year to year, then maybe some of that can go towards increasing the personnel services budget, or really a separate line item in the DPW budget for the replacement of this, if that doesn't exist already. So I appreciate all the work here. The analysis is excellent, and thank you for all the hard work on the regulations as well. I know that's really difficult work to do, so appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Just say, you mentioned sustainability.
Yep.
Sustainability Department, Ken Pruitt, Town Planner Taylor, DPW, is Bob still here? Yes, Bob and Jim Shattuck have all been important contributors to this conversation, so we've kept the conversation as wide as we could.
Great, thank you.
I think Bill did make an important point as we're talking about trees, and sort of, one, getting people to see this, but two, people kind of knowing what's happening and where their trees, and it sparked for me that DCR, I think, did adopt a drain, or MWRA adopt a drain, so you could adopt a street tree, and we would have several hundred tree face trees around town. But just thinking of ways to get people more engaged with what's happening as you look towards, is there future steps for a tree canopy, and getting a closer look at what are those trees on the street. So.
I've told this story before. My whole neighborhood is based around a tree. And when the town replaced it a couple years ago, it was a big deal. Everyone came out, and we got our photo in the newspaper. And it is just a great demonstration, because we come together 3 or 4 times a year around that tree. We sing Christmas carols, Santa Claus comes. It is the center of our little community there.
It's a famous tree.
Huh?
It's a famous tree.
It's great. Yeah, it's wonderful. And I'm so happy the town replaced it. And but we can do more of that. So let's do it.
Okay. No other questions? Maybe we have a motion.
We do have
to adopt. Oh, do you have a?
She's got pages of motions, I think, tonight.
This one's much shorter than the first one. Move that we approve the proposed regulations to the public shade tree bylaw in substantially the form presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And David, personally, thank you for your patience and waiting for this to get on the agenda. We had several misses in the fall, and I'm grateful for your patience to get it to today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. We all appreciate the opportunity, and I hope this makes a big difference in our canopy, and thanks for putting your time in as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, the town meeting warrant. And Roger, are you looking to update us during town meeting warrant, or select? Yeah, probably town meeting warrant.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
What gets them up here fastest?
Yeah, true. It's like, I don't think you're doing our article positions. So Beth, we have to approve the warrant in its entirety, but do we want to hear from Capital, or want to hear from those who go through it? What do you think is the best way to step through the
I think we
exercise?
can do either. I wasn't planning on going through the entire warrant.
We can go through this, the capitals then?
You want, but
Come on up. Okay. And then after we hear from capital planning, then we'll approve the warrants kind of as published. And then if the moderator has any questions, he can raise his hand too. So
I can
just
go
make
quick
yourself known.
if you want to just take a look at what was provided in your packets. Thank you for having me on this February. Is it February? It feels like it's February.
Right?
Meeting.
A little bit of snow, a little bit of rain.
All day I'm here alone because the vice chair is in Paris sending me pictures of kids in short sleeve shirts playing soccer outside, and him having chocolate covered pastries and things like that. So
a lot of people those pictures.
this is what I get.
Why is he doing that and not enjoying Paris? I appreciate Mr. Vanelia's dedication.
I was going to say,
toward
he
that.
should not be named, but there it is. Named.
He's probably watching right now.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I hope he's asleep.
It's 4 in the morning.
He's probably watching right now.
So the articles we have will have standard modification to the capital planning report, as you'll hear in a minute. Things happen in 7 months between when we finished our cycle and Springtown meeting. Article 15, which I believe will be, again, this is draft because you guys might change article numbers and things like that on the, but Article 15 is probably going to be consent. It's closeouts of past projects. Article 16, which will be the bulk of our work, and I would refer you to this page, and I'll walk through. It's the majority of the projects. The first thing that's happened, this is relatively breaking news. You probably heard we had an increase in cost for the high school concrete floor repairs. We're going to need to add $95,000 to that, which panicked your loyal chair to no end until we finally figured out where we could pull that money from and back it up and make it happen. So we're going to increase that amount to $450,000. We have the traditional amount of the ADA transition plan. I promise you we will get over the summer back to you with a recommendation on where we see that number going for next year. As you're aware, I'm certain, due to issues surrounding permitting and access, the Everett Avenue culvert repairs are going to be deferred until fall town meeting. So that freed up $340,000, which is going to allow us to see some of these things at the bottom of new. $500,000 for roads and sidewalks, as we have been able to do the past few years. FEMA floodplain update, we're moving forward with that at $175K. We're buying a DPW piece of equipment, a roadside brush cutter, which will enable us to send a single person around doing some of this work where normally we have to send a crew around to do this and clear areas for sight lines and things like that during the summer. So this will be it's a capital investment. It's also going to give us some operational savings in the long run. We get to 3 new items. One is just one of these vehicles in the back, the electrical vehicle. One of the electrical vehicles has failed to the point that the dealership said it's not worth trying to repair this. It's gone. So we're replacing that. It gets utilized by the building department, but it's really sort of a pool vehicle. Other departments can utilize it as well.
Yeah, how old was it? How many miles did it have? Just curious.
Those were like
they were donated to us.
I think it was a grant, actually. It was one of the first kind of EV grant programs.
07 or something. I mean, this is
it's
old.
been a long forever, yeah.
7 years?
No, 07.
Oh, no.
07. Yeah, okay.
I mean, this is really.
And it's progressively had issues. It's not like it just happens.
People have complained about finding rodents in it and things like that too. So it's time to
Theme
go.
of the night.
Yeah.
I think between Morocco and
rodents of the evening.
Yes.
The next thing, we got into repairs on one of the transfer station trailers, and it was more than what we expected in terms of the surface, the things that we could see. As we got into the repairs, it was obvious that corrosion had gotten throughout the framing and everything else like that, so we need to replace that. We have another one that's also behind it that we're getting ready to do repairs on, but we can't pull that one off the line to do repairs on it until we get this new one in. So these 2 things were taken care of through the result of the Everett Avenue culvert repairs being pushed off. So we're asking for one more box trailer, and these are specialized box. They aren't just your typical trailer because they've got the hydraulic pusher on the inside, so that after the things get filled up and they get up to Andover, they can shove all the trash out. They live a hard life. Let's be honest. The next thing I am so happy that we're pulling off. It's the records department automation, where we're going to scan in roughly 500,000 to 600,000 records that are out in that room out there in bankers' boxes and put them into a searchable format. And it's going to be one of our first major automation projects, and it's been coordinated between the building department and the town clerk, who's approved the platform that we're going to utilize. We will still own all the data. It gives us a way going forward at looking at future record automation projects as well.
Do we get operational savings with that too, or?
It'd be hard for me to quantify it. We're going to have a little bit of increased cost from because we're going to put all this stuff into the cloud. So I think it was about $4,000 for us to keep it into the cloud. But the way that these guys have to do this right now is they stop, and when they get a records request, which increasingly they're getting as a part of the sales process.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
I think it'll have a business climate impact more than a town operations impact, right?
Well, they have to physically go through, find these banker boxes, and find all these records that are associated. And we have to keep all of those building permits for as long as the building exists. So again, it's like 500,000 to 600,000 records right now that will just be all of a sudden.
And if they don't get them in 10 days, then we're subject to fines and lawsuits. So it's nice to not worry about that.
Yeah. Yes. So that's one BSF project, and the rest were capital stabilization fund projects. Then we get into the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, and what we had scheduled, I'll just say this up front, was we did have 3 projects scheduled. The computer programming update to the SCADA system, that's $75,000. What you're missing here is we were going to do a meter replacement program to $200,000. Now we've pulled that out because retained earnings didn't support it, but we found a way forward. I don't know if I'm repeating this, if you've heard this story already. We have an account where interest that is generated from MWRA loan grants that's sitting there until we utilize it, that interest goes into a particular account, and we're allowed to utilize that for MWRA projects. We asked the MWRA if the meter replacement program would be acceptable. They approved. DOR also approved. So we're able to proceed with that without having to impact our retained earnings.
Are those little meters or big meters?
These are meters at your house.
So
it's just a pilot. It's just a pilot program.
Replacing the oldest ones and then
Yes.
giving you the opportunity to potentially
Track your
know
water
all
usage.
your data. And my meter is probably
Well, and-
not old enough for that, but I'm just waiting.
We think that it's actually going to generate more revenue because it's the mechanical
accurate.
meters that we have now have a well-known degradation over time where they fail to accurately record the amount of water going through. So I'm going to make sure that I ask that the first meters get replaced over there, not over here. But we should start seeing accurate meters and increased accuracy of our reporting.
my question for that is, I know that, so fantastic, trying to find it retained, investment earnings or earnings to fund for this. Is that I know we want to replace them on a, quicker schedule than on the earnings, but is that a potential way to sort of have an ongoing year-over-year water meter replacement program by using those earnings?
These investment earnings have been accruing for decade plus probably, so I think
Oh, that specific
That
program?
specific.
Yeah. But are you asking, would the increased revenue?
Either way, but I was more thinking about if there's earnings that we're always getting loans, we're always banking loans, we're always earning interest on loans, is that a way to have a sustainable?
It's like $40 million balance.
yeah, no, this was specific like
This-
MWRA money that's been kind of
Yep.
sitting there that is
What's the total amount of MWR money, generally speaking,
total.
in a year? Like how much would be in that account bearing it?
Varies. This has been a very complicated accounting treasurer exercise with several meetings with MWRA. So to get to a final balance, that's in that account. So this is, I would akin it to sort of one-time money. I think we have maybe $400,000 in that account.
I don't even know if it's that much, but
So
it's
there's a little-
coins in the couch,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Happy for the windfall.
yeah.
I think maybe a good lesson that if we have, maybe not something like this, but what are the other opportunities for MWRA-related projects to get, if it's $30,000 in earnings in a given year, just another way to
Yeah,
apply it
yeah.
toward things that we know we need, which we'll always need water meters, we're always going to need something.
Yes.
So that's great.
So the other thing that we did have retained earnings for was our MS4 permit compliance, and so that will also be MWRA, or excuse me, water and sewer retained earnings. Then we have what you'll see in Article 17 is borrowing for Woodside Road pumping station construction. That'll be borrowing against the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund of $1.5 million. And then also down in Cambridge Street, which I'm sure you're all very aware of, the water quality improvements there, and that will be $800,000 that will also be borrowing against the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. Finally, we're going to get up and give a good presentation and explain to the town about the strategic maintenance fund and give them some nice examples of where that's going on. This last meeting, we authorized work on fire department bucket truck, where we're going to get, we expect an additional 5 years of life out of it.
Which articles are on?
That's Article 20.
20.
That will be Article 20.
There it is, Article 20.
By current numbers, anyway.
Yep. Article 20. And Roger, you wanted to speak to that one, right?
I'm going to speak to that.
It's sponsored by like everybody.
Hopefully.
Select Board, Town Manager, Capital Planning.
Yep.
Fine. And I know we, as a board, voted to increase that to $200,000 at our last meeting, so, okay.
I graciously said Roger could do it all by himself.
You stand up and say nice things about it too, though, right?
Yes, of course.
That's fine.
That's it for me.
That's a good update. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for Roger before I know he's very anxious to leave, but anything?
No, I'm here all night.
No, that's, I appreciate that the water meter has a path forward. I think to Anthea's point, you know, wherever it gets to, one thing, and that's up to DPW, and I know Bob's left, but we have meters that don't work, and we estimate we have meters that are old, and certainly new buildings will get new meters, right? There's probably some strategy as to where to put those, the limited amount that we can fund, where to put those to truly start to actually, you know, accurately capture usage and then accurately bill for usage. So it's a good step forward until we can find the nut to do all the meters in town.
And not being mechanical anymore, they should last us a good long time and be really precise.
I'm glad we have a way to get that going in the next fiscal year. I think that's great. So thank you.
Approximately how many meters is that?
200,000.
Yeah, they were pretty expensive, as I recall.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head.
We're talking a few hundred.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? We'll see you at town meeting. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Roger.
Okay. So the warrant in general, we have 56 articles. It's set up so that kind of the standard articles are first the board and committee reports. There's a few, there's a floodplain zoning bylaw. There's 2 citizens petitions related to the Ledges property, which we've talked about. There is another citizens petition related to banning the use of SCARs on town property. And then we move into current fiscal year articles, capital planning, a few select board articles, and then FY26 budget articles. There's the WCCP article to establish their budget for FY26, and then several select board articles. And then in the last half, or I guess third of the warrant, we've put the articles from the Committee on Government Regs. And so there's each chapter has its own article. I will note that between article, what is chapter 2, which is article 38, and 39 is actually a citizen's petition, which impacts chapter 2 as well. So we decided to put that kind of in the flow as we're going through the bylaws. And that takes us to the end.
Yes. And I attended the Committee on Government Regulations public hearing last Thursday, shared feedback on the Chapter 2 amendments around the timing of, handing out articles and motions and background, 13 days versus 7, shared some feedback on town meeting time and just making sure that town meeting members are up to speed and able to adjust, and then shared specifically the comptroller's feedback on Chapter 6 related to undistributed funds, closing some, like getting rid of some chapters, and potentially, the appropriate uses of allocations, and saying that and the allocation makes sense, but it needs more time and attention. And then the comptroller had no edits on Chapter 7. And the only other members of the public were David Miller talking about a Conservation Commission bylaw update, and Ruth Tremarky with Board of Health removing one of their chapters entirely on smoking. So other than that, it was a pretty uneventful public hearing. I thought there'd be a few more people, but there weren't. But we did have a chance to share feedback on a couple of items of interest to us from town meeting, and the comptroller on the accounting. So, and I think I shared an update with, a written update, maybe with Anthea, I think, which I'm happy to share with anybody else if you'd like, but.
I just wanted to mention that in the version of the draft warrant that you all received, in the committee and government reg articles, there were a couple notes. It was like a JC with a number in parentheses, and we've removed all those. That was cleaned up from the version you had, so that will not be in the final printed version.
Okay.
Where did you say the citizens petition in the gov regs?
It's article, I want to say 39.
Top of the last page.
What page number?
39. Oh, sorry, you're in the book. I'm on this little cheat sheet. Patty says page 15.
Page 15,
Page, yeah.
because I'm at it now.
Page 15. There you go.
Article 39.
Article 39. Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
I did watch the GovRegs meeting that you attended and provided comment at. One thing I'm so curious about, are they still intending on going forward with all of these amendments this spring, or is there any discussion about postponing anything until the fall? 'Cause, well, some of these I see as being very non-controversial.
They're correct.
Some of them are not.
There was a discussion about the non-controversial things like renumbering and collector treasurer and pronouns and gender neutral, and maybe moving those onto the consent agenda. I think working with the moderator to do those, but there was no discussion, even off camera, of IPing anything or postponing anything at this time. So I think everything is on the warrant to be taken up in the spring. Nothing is being shifted for a later date, but I suppose anyone could make a motion to do so. But there was no discussion of that. Only a discussion of the ones that are, organizational Scrivener's errors and language updates, potentially having those be added to the consent agenda. And here comes the moderator, perhaps with an update. I don't know.
And part of that is some of these articles have a lot of edits in them.
Yes.
And I think that could open up a lot of discussion and debate and
Amendments upon amendments.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, it is what it is. We are where we are. But maybe Mr. Moderator, newly minted moderator, has something to share.
I just want to start by thanking you, Michelle, for your optimism and thinking that we're going to be done by May 8th with town meeting.
Someone's going to be optimistic, Mr. Moderator.
This is the longest warrant in anybody's memory, so we have our challenges cut out for us. But in terms of a consent agenda or kind of following up on those questions, we were thinking, the latest thinking now is that maybe we'll take 4 or 5 articles out of order. So we'll do all the non-controversial ones at the beginning of the bylaw discussion. We'll have the Committee on Government Regulations discuss them so that everybody's aware of what the changes are. Everybody can be on board with it. We'll get your votes on each of them and then vote on them, hopefully by voice the first time. And if we have to, we'll take a clicker vote on each of those, and then we'll do them in order. So probably Article 2, I think, what number is that, 38?
Chapter 2?
Chapter 2 is 38, yep.
We'll start with that, and then we'll see how it goes. Somebody could break up that question and do the things individually. That would take a vote of town meeting, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's a really good example there, Phil.
Yep.
Mr. Frodola. Because there, I think some of these are pretty obvious, like swapping a website for bulletin board.
Yep.
But, something like the number of days before which certain information has to be provided. I've seen people pushing back on that one, and so it just could get messy.
Yep. I'm going to have to find a 13-sided dice just to expedite. We'll at a certain time, we'll just roll it and see what comes up with them.
Yeah. And I know the town clerk had mentioned with, at the public hearing about footnotes, which is Article 55, like brackets and footnotes, and, do we just delete chapters but still maintain the numbering? I think some of those, so taking them out of order, I think will be great, because there's certain things, I think, from just the maintenance of the bylaw that will make the town clerk's life easier and the town clerk's office staff. So if those are non-controversial and those can just move through, at least we have a way to just memorialize these changes. And Phil, these are all simple majority votes, bylaw changes, right? I believe.
Come on.
I should know that. I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going.
So I
back
think
to
the voice
earlier
vote, I'm thinking of the voice vote conversation, maybe not needing clickers, but we'll see, right? I mean, on some of the ones are going to, a lot of debate, you'll want clickers, but I think for some voice votes, if it's just a majority, that should be hopefully easier. Okay. Any other wisdom on the warrant for us before we vote to approve it? The monster that it is?
No, just be very, prepared to camp out for a couple extra weeks.
Bring snacks.
Yeah, bring snacks.
Okay.
Maybe we can get it catered by some local businesses.
Are you trying to find your own new source of revenue?
I can keep everybody hostage in town meeting. And
Can't leave till it's done. All right.
As long as the Girl Scouts are there to be, one,
right.
have cookies, and two, be resourceful in case we have any.
Another mouse? Yeah, don't undercut the cookie
Theme of the
sales.
night.
Can't have that. All right, so do we have a motion for the warrant?
Move that we approve the warrant for Springtown meeting in substantially the form presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I want to ask the board, the next item of business is our town meeting article positions. Do we want to vote positions? Or I was thinking of potentially leapfrogging that and doing outdoor dining and Morocco Culvert and other updates. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're going to meet again on the 14th, and we certainly have, with 56 articles, we have a lot of positions to take. But we certainly have to get through, like we always try to do, is get through what we think will reasonably take it up the first 2 nights of town meeting, get through as many of those as we can by April 28th. And if we're moving into, financial articles in May, we'll take some of these potentially out of order ourselves. But, all right, so we're going to skip that item right now. We'll go to outdoor dining then, next. And we had... Last time we met, we have the table of outdoor dining. We had some questions for a couple of the applications. And Beth, I think we have some updates, right?
Yeah, so the first one I'll just talk about is the Ottawa Nouvelle Maison area where they had requested to use 2 parking spaces plus kind of the existing hatched out area. That's sort of a new parking zone. They did come back and request us to reconsider, which was the staff recommendation not to use that area. And it was looked at by DPW and engineering, and there is significant drainage infrastructure that has been placed there as a result of the bump out project. And we just felt like it was, at this point, didn't want to have anything obstructing that area and wanted to make sure that DPW had clear access to get in and out there to clean leaves and do other maintenance work. So our recommendation stands in terms of just maintaining the 2 parking space area as opposed to expanding it beyond that into the kind of
no parking.
No parking. Yep.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Sure.
The concern I think from the business is that people park in the no parking, and so if we have, and so it actually it both impacts their outdoor dining, but also it sort of frustrates the actual objective of creating the line of sight coming up Church Street, Waterfield Street. So I think I don't know if there's cones or there's something.
Yeah, I think that's like a separate issue we can kind of work on the side, outside of kind of the outdoor dining conversation. But that's a fair point that if people are parking there when they shouldn't be, then that's something we need to address separately.
I think that's actually why they asked for the outdoor dining space there.
It is.
Yeah. So if we address that issue, I think their concern actually goes away.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Get some large concrete planters and just throw those things down.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's seriously.
That's how we
You
have
could
drainage
aesthetically,
issue.
right? Well,
And then
with
the
dirt
2
bottoms, I don't know.
The other piece that the board had from the last meeting was a request for the businesses who are affected by the on-street dining at Black Horse Tavern and at First House Pub to kind of voice their concerns or support for the extensions. So there are letters in your packet. One from Compass, which is the abutter on Thompson Street for Black Horse Tavern, who has no concerns with the extension. One from Eastern Bank, who is the abutter to First House Pub, who has no concern with it overlapping their building frontage. And then the last one is from Catch a Falling Star, which also abuts First House Pub. And I'll just read their letter. I'm dropping you a quick note to let you know I support our outdoor dining for First House Pub. I have only one request as stated at a previous select board meeting. I feel it is only fair that no part of my store be obstructed by his outdoor seating. I want to support him, but also want to protect my business. Business has been slow for 2025. So I think that was addresses kind of the questions that the board had regarding concerns that the abutters might have for that project.
So the proposal for First House is indeed to follow that, right? To not.
So their request is for 3 spaces, and so that would cover the front. This is the setup from last year. That would cover the frontage of a portion of the Catch a Falling Stars business. And if you were to trim it back to 2 spaces, the problem is that like one space is kind of in the middle of. Yeah, you can take that.
If 3 spaces, on the one end, it goes heavily into the Eastern Bank area, but Eastern Bank doesn't have a problem with that. On the other end, half of that space is in front of Catch a Falling Star.
Right.
And so to give them 3 full spaces, they end up with, a good amount that's right in front of the main entrance and main display window of Catch a Falling Star.
Their sign.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
give them 2.5 spaces.
If that's works
We
for me.
can, we can probably adjust the fee, right? It's a per space fee.
Yeah.
We can call it roughly half. And so that if they have a 60-foot run, they can have a 50-foot run, right? If it's whatever, we're taking 10 feet away.
Yeah.
I do think it's fair. I believe agree with this letter. I think it's fair that to your point, Bill, however you framed it, the front, the sort of window shopping part and its front door should be obstructed.
So that's half a space. However, we want to communicate that to the business owner. If that's 2.5 spaces, we can probably price that out, and we can work with, town hall to say, here's roughly where it should end, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Can
another-
we work with DPW and Matt and see if we can
Restrict those.
squeeze 5
Yeah, we can
spots
squeeze
in
those.
that space?
Yeah, this is another,
I don't even know. I was gonna
our
say that.
giant parking spot discussion that keeps
People
coming
park
up.
there all the time. I've seen it. Mike, you're going to say something.
Ooh,
I'm fine.
you represent First House, so you got to stay quiet on that, don't you?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I was looking at this and it's like,
Right, summer parking goes like this. Okay, so with that, we had no other questions on China Sky, Lucia, right? And am I missing any? And we talked about Otavalo, we talked about Black Horse, and we talked about
comment from
First House.
Debbie Johnson
Oh, about disability access?
from the
Yes.
from the deck.
So I think the recommendation is to include in the draft motions, to include something that
Yes.
specifically addresses the need to ensure that everybody is in compliance with our ADA requirements.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
That's in the motion, that's right.
Yep. Got it.
Okay. So let's make the motion. If we still want to discuss, we can.
Do we have to have a public hearing?
No?
No. Do you want to say anything?
All right, I'll take off the other hat if you want. In terms of the ADA thing,
Come on up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm 100% on board with that. It's just we have an issue where there was rodents in the bookends building. There was a lot of pest issues over the last year. If we put like a deck over the street and it just would be a place where rats could live and would not be particularly great for our business. So we've looked at different kind of solutions for that. I think what we're going to end up doing is using a different configuration of our barriers so that there is a natural ramp at the end, like at our driveway, and then instead of having a 3-foot gap on the dog store side, we'll have the 3-foot gap on the driveway side, so that if somebody wanted to, they could wheel down the sidewalk and be on the street level, and then just wheel into the patio. And so I think we'll be in compliance that way. It just won't be
An elevated
an
structure.
artificial. Yeah. I mean, we'd love to be able to do it, and we'd probably gain 2 feet of the sidewalk to be able to use it and make the patio wider, but just don't want to have a colony of rats living in front of the restaurant.
It is definitely the theme of the night. Man, April 7th, the night we talked about rats. Okay, thank you for that update. Appreciate it. Yeah, yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
I've got 5 motions, so I move that we approve the use of 2 parking spots and the use of the sidewalk on Church Street to be used for outdoor dining for À Table and Nouvelle Maison with the addition of ADA access.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Move that we approve the use of 3 parking spots and the use of the sidewalk on Thompson Street to be used for outdoor dining for Black Horse Tavern with the addition of ADA access.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Move that we approve the use of 1 parking spot and additional right-of-way space and the use of the sidewalk on Commerce Place to be used for outdoor dining for China Sky with the addition of ADA access.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move that we approve the use of 2.5 parking spots and the use of the sidewalk on Main Street to be used for outdoor dining for First House Pub with the addition of ADA access.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move that we approve the use of 3 parking spots and the use of the sidewalk on Mount Vernon Street in front of the restaurant frontage to be used for outdoor dining for Lucia's Restaurant with the addition of ADA access.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. And we can, and I know we have, the setup is the Wednesday before Mother's Day, so we can notify the businesses and they can start setting up at mid that week. Okay, great. The next thing we have is the Morocco Culvert DOR vote. Sure, that's a nice, is it a lengthy one or not so bad?
No, it's much shorter.
Oh, all right.
This is just the
Want me to give a
determination from
quick
DOR.
background, or you want to just jump into the vote?
I think we got it.
Do we need the, I think we had the background last time.
Talked about it.
Yeah. Good enough?
We'd have to
right.
We don't want to lose our viewers by being repetitive.
I think we lost them at 9:08 p.m. Move that the Select Board accepts the revised cost estimate from VHB dated March 20th, 2025 for the Morocco Culvert Flood Mitigation Project and attests that the increased project costs are not related to project scope changes and further authorizes the town manager to submit the executed form to DOR for approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay. So the last two, well, the last thing we'll talk about certainly, well, maybe we'll get the anniversary of Select Board Committee updates. Beth, I wanted to give you an opportunity to start with sort of town manager response, then we'll talk state of the town, and then if there's any other Select Board business.
Sure. Yeah,
If that's
thank
okay
you.
with you.
So included in the packet is kind of a brief document that I put together that kind of went through some of the accomplishments that kind of to build onto the review that was done sort of at the end of February. And then I took, grateful for the folks who were able to meet with me one-on-one to talk through their review and their feedback. I was able to take that information and make some recommendations in terms of what I see in terms of recommended goals and priorities going forward over the next year. So this is really kind of the first part of it, because the town manager's goals and priorities really fall out of what the Select Board's goals and priorities are, and so you're sort of at the last 2/3 of your kind of goals and priorities, which were set last summer. So I think there's certainly some work to do to kind of bring those pieces together, but I wanted to kind of provide some immediate feedback based on the things that I heard and that were in the review document. So I'll just very quickly, the past few years, there's been several significant transitions. We've had several long-term department heads who've retired, DPW director, fire chief, building commissioner, treasurer, collector, water and sewer operations manager. We've also hired a new town engineer to replace me, as well as an assistant town engineer. We've been able to add some additional staff to create some redundancy in areas where it was sort of what I call a single point of failure in both our IT department and our planning department. So we're able to add a network administrator in the IT department, as well as an assistant town planner. So I'm really grateful to kind of all of our town staff and department heads. There's, nothing that's in this document that I put together would be possible without the work of all of our town staff there. From a financial perspective, obviously the town, is facing some significant challenges in the years ahead. I am proud of the fact that, over the past few years, we've been able to grow our free cash balance and our operating reserves to their highest level that they've been. And we've also, on the staff level, been able to secure around $2.5 million of grants and earmarks, which I think is really a tribute to our staff and the amount of work that they put into being able to research and apply for those sorts of opportunities. And also very grateful to our state rep and our Senator Lewis, who has helped us tremendously over the past several years to get those earmarks. And then lastly, last fall, the town completed a communication study and a website improvement plan with the Collins Center, and we're really just improving communication has kind of been a goal since I took on as the acting town manager role, and we're really starting to work on the website improvement project, which will be rolling out probably later this summer. We've just started that effort right now with our website. With our website development company. So again, looking forward over the next year, my focus will really be improving communication with the select board and the community at large. We're going to be working on several human resource related priorities, our improvements to our personal policy guide, and also if it gets funded at springtime meeting, we'll be having a compensation study for our municipal employees. Also looking at ways to integrate the VFA update that we just did better into our capital planning process, working with the board on the forthcoming State of the Town initiative, and then also prioritizing some of my own professional development opportunities. So that's, I think, a nutshell of.
Yes, and we'll certainly talk about State of the Town next, but one thing that Bill and I had a chance to sit down with Beth, and so the next thing we need to do is come up with goals for Beth and sort of turn that into a work plan. But what we thought the sequence ought to be is we got to do our own select board goals, sort of update the logic model, do the select board goal setting work in kind of June, July. We have to get through town meeting. And then Beth's contract says she should have goals by July 1. So we may not make July 1, but we certainly should make the summer for Beth. And then we'll turn that into sort of a work plan around, you know, actionable things for Beth to do. And I think as part of her ongoing updates to us, we can, on a quarterly basis at least, sit down with Beth and go through kind of how are those goals progressing. And the thing we discussed is maybe 2 members of the select board meeting with Beth on a quarterly basis on those goals, not just the chair and the vice chair, but a rotating cast of us. So we have some work to do on logic model, and I think I asked her if she would take the lead on that. And we'll look at some time in June or July to do that around people's vacations and things. And then we'll turn into some work plan items for Beth specifically. So that's the next step on that.
Good, thank you.
Okay. So the last thing then is select board committee updates. And obviously the big one, I think, is getting some messaging for State of the Town. But does anybody else have any other committee updates they want to share before we jump into State of the Town? From other, we had a capital update tonight. We obviously talked about government regs and public hearing, but okay. So in light of the fact that I don't know if Houston's winning right now or Florida, but that's okay.
If you want to know.
It's all right. I don't think I want to know. Paris put down some thoughts. We probably cannibalized for a bunch of people, but thank you for doing that.
They're certainly not my thoughts.
Excellent thoughts on the state of the town. But what I've heard from each of you at various times in the last few weeks is, you know, we want to make sure we tell town meeting, what are we doing? What do we think the output should be? What's the cadence going to be? How frequently will we meet? So if people have specific, I have some thoughts on cadence, but I'm also mindful of the time and the notion that our meeting next Monday on the 14th, Beth, unless some new items have crept on since last week, we have a couple of presentations and really are devoted to town meeting warrant article positions. So if we want to spend a little more time next week on state of the town, kind of like outputs and, you know, what are we doing? What are the areas of focus? I'm going to take, you know, the will of the board on how deep we want to go on these recommendations right now versus take up next week, because we do have that, but next week's meeting really needs to coalesce around the message to town meeting, because we'll deliver that message on the first night.
So that's what I was going to ask. So what do we envision that looking like in terms of what we want to
Well, we have 10 minutes, right, for Article 1. So all of the select board presentation has to fit into that 10-minute window. So that's usually it's our articles. Please support us with the Strategic Maintenance Fund. Please support us with Morocco Culvert. Please support us with other things, and a little bit of what we've done. So maybe 3 or 4 minutes of the business of the town meeting, and maybe other accomplishments, and then we can certainly spend 2 to 3 minutes on the state of the town. But we have to fit that into our broader Article 1 presentation. So what I was envisioning was, you know, this is the goal, this is the group, the goals of the group, this is the frequency that we'll meet, these are what the outputs are that we expect, and get ourselves on a calendar for at least through, if not fall time, but all the way through the end of the calendar year, like meeting probably twice a month. I mean, we could decide that as a group, but I think that's the cadence we're going to need to be on. And, you know, community members either in areas of focus around revenue, expenses, and capital, or community members from a broader kind of steering committee level, we can decide that too.
So I guess so if we're only presenting, call it 3 minutes on state of the town at town meeting, right?
Yeah, kind of a what to expect thing, I think.
So how much do we need to have settled by then, to share? Because it's pretty small, very high level of
Yeah.
what we're going to share, versus we actually have to the other side of town meeting to put some of the meat on the bones of what we want.
We definitely have time during town meeting and after to put the meat on the bones in terms of like these, this is the goal one, and, month 1 and 2, we're going to accomplish these things. We definitely have time, but I think the expectations for town meeting that we want to have, capital and finance committee and planning board and school committee and town staff, and this is who we want to be talking to, this is the frequency, and then we want to have some at-large members. When do we intend to invite people to apply, right, to raise their hand and join? I think those are the expectations we need to be able to set.
So we might only speak about it for 3 minutes, but we need to have a decent amount of depth. That's what you're saying.
I think so. I mean, that's my sense. Unless I'm not looking this way. So if you're nodding, that's good. If you're not nodding, I can't see.
No, I think
the
we
more
need to
the
have a
better.
basic skeleton / schedule between
Yep.
where we are at town meeting and where we need to be successful for avoiding this financial cliff. Getting into the details isn't necessary at this point in time, but proving the town meeting that they're in good hands has to be the goal. And starting to rally up the support to be part of the effort and get the message out has to be part of the goal. It's rare that we have so much of a captive audience. So
Yeah.
it's taking advantage of that and really kickstarting, I think, more than anything else. And we're the leaders for this. So I think we can come together on the basic structure pretty easily.
Yeah.
It'd be better to do it at the next meeting than right
I'm
now.
fully with you.
Yeah.
I mean, would people be open to, and I know you're traveling back from Vermont, so it seems like we may not have much in the executive session side, to just plugging this agenda item at, like, we've done this before a couple times, like, just put something ahead of the meeting so we can hash it out and not.
If people are free to meet at 6:30, we can see if WinCam's free to meet at 6:30, but would people be free to meet next Monday at 6:30 versus 7 or 7:30?
I can do it at 6:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's preferable than
Doing it later.
doing it at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I think, and maybe that's just what we have to start doing more and more is
Just having public session earlier, you're saying?
yeah, maybe public comment starts at 10.
Maybe they'll stay for the rest of the meeting then.
All right, so I'll work with Beth and WinCam on schedule, but I think it's a great idea. I think I have one executive session topic that doesn't even involve Beth that I want to make sure we do kick off next week, but we'll find the timing for that, whether that's at 6:30 to 6:45, and this rolls into, can WinCam record it, or at least it'll be an open meeting, whether it's on record or not, at least it could be, people can witness. Good suggestion, thank you. And I think as it relates to what we want to tell town meeting, this is one where I would share a copy of my presentation, like this is what I'm going to say tonight. Certainly happy to share drafts of the presentation around specifically state of the town with all of us, or have Batty send it around to say, hey, let's make sure we reorder those bullets. Let's stress this one. Let's make that bigger. I think it is, to Bill's point, it's our collective responsibility. Let's agree with what we're saying. So we can kind of put the thoughts down tomorrow, next week, and then make sure you all see a draft of how that comes together in terms of the message on the page. I'll commit to that. Okay. Anything else?
Can we, sorry, Sarah, do you mean other topics or?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Other
just
topics.
Last one quickly.
Yeah, this
just
is
'cause
the
we're
time for any other select
Just because
board
we're
updates.
meeting next week as well, between now and next week, can we get a sense of what the needs are at Morocco? It seems like we've been looking at kind of these immediate needs, and if everybody's just waiting for somebody else to fund it, then it's just going to continue, just nothing's happening. So, and the longer we wait, the worse it is for the kids. We should be jumping on these projects this summer, right? So that's the cycle that we should be looking at it. So if everybody's got to kick in some cash to get some of it done, if we need to go over there and start painting, whatever we need to do, it's been a little bit too long, I think.
The survey that Sandy talked about, there's a slide deck that she was going to share with Patty. I've received a copy of that. I'm happy to share it too. That's also been shared with the superintendent.
Okay. As long as DPW can make some
and-
recommendations along with that.
And that was shared with school committee in fall.
In the fall?
It was shared with school committee
So
at a MESPA meeting.
Okay, so I mean, Mike, to your
Yep.
to your point, and the fact that maybe it's a 5-month-old survey at this point, right? So
Yeah.
Beth, let's talk this week, and if we need to have a meeting with, whether it's town manager, superintendent, DPW director, let's go through and let's figure out who owns what or what's the sequence of events, and then maybe we have an update for the board next week. So let's see who we can get as many people in the room to say, I'll take that one, you guys take this one, as opposed to DPW trying to do all of it, but what else? Yeah, let's sequence things. Paris, you're going to say something?
I have one other thing I'll say at the time, but on this point, I'm glad Mike brought it back up. Are there a couple members, and Mike, you obviously were deeply involved in the 2021 extension work, right? And Anthony, you're a
Morocco parent.
Far be it for me to nominate people, but
just did.
Yeah, even though I just did. But maybe a couple of folks can work with schools management, town management, et cetera.
Yeah, happy to do whatever.
Yeah, I think
happy to do that.
let's-
But coordinate with Sandy. And
I don't want to get in the way if there's already, stuff
Right, but
that's, but I'm
let's see,
happy
and if
to
there
be a
isn't a meeting
contact
happening,
point.
let's get a meeting happening,
Yeah.
and then if you guys are both willing,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll make myself available.
And wouldn't it be nice to have an update for a Springtown meeting if there was such a thing?
Yeah, and it may be too that if there's money from the revolving fund, if we have money from other sources, or even the strategic maintenance fund, if we need to increase that number and ask for that for this purpose, maybe we can do that, right? I mean, that would be a short amendment and would be a way to take care of it, and that's really in line with what that fund is for. Yeah.
Correct.
And my other question, back in the state of town, is there, if we're going to meet 6:30, is there some pre-work we should, arrive having done? Should we think about the number of people from each body on it, number of works? What should we just? I guess I'm just want to make that conversation as productive as possible.
That's something I'm specifically going to be thinking about in terms of, I'm going to be personally thinking about structure of the committee, time, the cadence, and kind of overall schedule.
Okay.
What are our deadlines that we're going to give ourselves? Like if we need to have it ready to go for a March town election, when does the select board have to have their vote?
The whole backward plan from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that something that Mary Ellen can?
I think I
for
had
us?
mentioned to Bill that I can have Mary Ellen kind of give us a schedule of what the timing would be to get something on that March election.
Yep. Last time, I know it was a special town meeting in February, and the select board vote was actually early March, and the ballot question was March. So it was, the number truly came together in the last 5 weeks of the effort. The work was a year and a half. It was a year and 3 months. It was January of 2017 to March of 2018 was the work. We don't have that time. But the actual number to say the town meeting and then for the select board to vote was actually late February to the first week of March. So that's our deadline. And a ballot question is clearly a hard and fast deadline as well. So we'll know that.
And there were dozens of, Michelle, like you were obviously there. There was dozens of public meetings, I believe, right?
There were lots.
All the meetings were open meetings. There were dozens of different forums, and yes. So
That's a very important piece, yeah.
Yep. So I think that's right. I think that's a good output to think about. I think beyond the usual suspects of Finance Committee and Comptroller and Planning Board and Capital and School Committee, are there other bodies, certainly Engineer and Planning Board, but are there other bodies that you think are important stakeholders that we want to make sure we're talking to, like the seniors in our community, someone from the Council on Aging, be it? I would ask you to actually think about also representative kind of positions who have a stake in this override as well, beyond the things I think that are obvious. And by all means, let's write down the obvious ones, because maybe one of us is forgetting someone that's very much obvious. So I think that's a good thing about both structure and who. So that's a good homework assignment too. And if you think of anything else, just do the homework, I suppose. Paris gave us a good start. So thank you for that. Okay. Any other
agenda?
updates? What's that?
Consent agenda?
Consent agenda, of course. We're going to get there. Yeah, go ahead.
Motion to approve. Oh, do you want to do anniversary?
Yeah, a celebration.
I think we have to talk about that next week. I'm not sure what we need to do about it, but
Wait, motion to approve the consent agenda as posted for April 7th, 2025.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And a motion to
Motion
adjourn?
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, WinCam. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your patience.